The moment I opened my eyes, I instantly regretted it, because it felt like the sun had a personal vendetta against me. Literally, every inch of skin felt like it was being jabbed by 1,000 tiny, red-hot needles. My mouth was drier than a bone in the Sahara, and every cell in my body was begging for water in 17 different languages. So, here's the situation. I just woke up in the body of this unlucky dude, named Leon Edward, the sixth son of Earl Edward. His whole family got dragged into a failed rebellion, all because of his wife's completely insane relatives. The coup failed catastrophically, and now everyone is tied up on wooden crosses on a raised platform, getting slow roasted by the scorching heat. They call this brutal penalty the sun punishment, the Cotton Empire's twisted version of a dignified execution, fit for nobility. You get strapped up, denied food and water, and subjected to pure solar torture for 7 straight days. If you somehow manage to survive, congrats. That means the sun god has forgiven your sins. Of course, you get stripped of all your wealth and status, and shipped off to some useless, barren wasteland on the edge of the empire, to live out your days farming. Dignified, right? I literally smell like a dumpster fire, wrapped inside a soggy gym sock, glancing over at my fellow family members, hanging from their posts. Every single one of them was shriveled up like beef jerky. Honestly, you could take their bodies down and display them in a museum as ancient mummies. I was the only person left with a heartbeat. Talk about luck. I transmigrated right on the 7th day. I only had to endure 2 hours of baking under the heat. Major props to the transmigration gods. Finally, something went my way. When the guards finally arrived to take the bodies down, they almost had a heart attack seeing me still alive. What on earth? How is one of them still breathing? Is he a freaking zombie? Just then, ping. A strange, semi-transparent box popped up right above the guard's head. This is an ordinary guard. However, he will soon become a dead guard, because he contracted an STD at Jenny's Tavern, after which he visited Kansas Men's Care Clinic, where the doctor recommended bloodletting therapy. I blinked in disbelief. Was I hallucinating from heat stroke after staring at the sun too long? Was my brain totally fried? I shifted my gaze to the second guard, and sure enough, another window popped up. This is an ordinary guard. He harbors a secret fetish for beast-eared girls, and is covertly saving money to purchase a beast girl slave. His wife must never find out about this, or his marriage will be completely ruined. Then, I looked back at the cross they had just untied me from. This is a regular wooden cross. However, years from now, it will become a famous historical relic, because it served as the execution prop for the legendary Leon Edward. Oh wow, so I'm actually going to be famous? Like historical national monument level famous. I decided to test it out further on everything around me. People, objects, random items. Everything I focused on revealed hidden information. This was my cheat system, my ultimate transmigrator golden finger. Instantly, all the dread and despair in my heart vanished, completely evaporating into thin air, quicker than my own relatives up on those crosses. Okay, maybe too soon for that one. A true cheater isn't afraid of anything. Not even this miserable, stench-filled medieval dumpster fire. Just as I was soaking in my big moment, an airborne boot cut me off, which was clearly aimed straight at my head, but slammed right into the guard standing beside me instead. Whoever threw that garbage had the aim of a hammered, blindfolded ape. That guard instantly lost his mind, wildly brandishing his blade. Who threw that? You got a death wish. The crowd was soaking up every single second of this chaos. These peasants, who usually get walked all over by high society, were hyped out of their minds to see a nobleman, looking like a sun-baked tomato traitor. Get the hell out of the capital. Even if the sun god forgives your sins, you're still nothing but rebel trash. To be honest, I was actually kind of bummed out that nobody hurled any spoiled eggs or rotten veggies at me. Dude, I'm literally starving out here. Then again, thinking about it, these poor folks can barely afford a single meal for themselves. So expecting a free buffet from a bunch of impoverished, starving locals was a stretch. By the time we made it to the court, my legs were completely giving out. A pair of guards basically had to drag me along, resembling a wasted, feeble uncle at a family party. The magistrate was this blonde, blue-eyed elderly clergyman. Now, he's just a run-of-the-mill priest. His entire job is literally just rubber stamping your banishment papers. Off to the Red Moon territory. Once that's done, the two of you will never cross paths ever again. So yeah, thanks for absolutely nothing, Holy Father. What a scene, right? He looked genuinely annoyed that I even managed to survive. He hastily scribbled his signature on the parchment, handed them over, and boom. Just like that, I got my exile sentence to the Red Moon territory. Ah, the Red Moon territory, basically known as the all-you-can-eat werewolf buffet land. It's a desolate border wasteland, where werewolves munch on human beings like snack mix. The population count? It never tops 200, because the wolves keep devouring the census takers. 0 nobles want it. 0 merchants want it. Hell, even a moderately ambitious cockroach would pull an immediate U-turn. Heading over there is practically strolling right into the mouth of a wolf while screaming, "Dinner is served, boys." But hey, at least it beats getting executed today, am I right? At the very least, I can try my best not to get turned into dog food. With those official sentencing papers in hand, my aristocratic status was officially restored. The guards escorted me toward the waiting carriage, and on the way, I managed to snap off 2 green agate buttons right off my shirt, literally the only valuable things left on my person, and covertly slipped them to a couple of beggars on the street, quietly whispering a few directions into their ears. The guards figured I was just being weird, but they didn't bother stopping me. At the end of the road, I bumped right into Bess, the old butler who served the Edward family. Since the household staff managed to avoid punishment, our house was basically just caught in the crossfire of someone else's foolish rebellion. Bess had actually been planning to grab his life savings and go crawling straight back to his ex-wife. But the exact second his eyes landed on my crusty, sun-crisped, utterly hideous face, his nose flushed bright red, and he instantly broke down crying. "Young master, you're actually alive. Now, let me tell you something about Bess's waterworks. And trust me, those tears are completely legit. Because as long as a single member of the Edward bloodline is breathing, this guy is legally bound to serve us forever. Those aren't tears of happiness, folks. That's the look of a man watching his entire pension plan go up in flames. In real time, that's when my cheat system decided to kick in. He looks like your run-of-the-mill servant, but he's actually been quietly pocketing cash for years. Current hidden stash, a staggering 2,200 gold coins. My eyes instantly lit up like a casino slot machine hitting the grand jackpot. I'm literally about to get shipped off to Werewolf Disneyland. With 0 money, 0 backup, 0 of absolutely everything. And here's my butler, strolling around with a massive secret emergency fund. My guy, you absolute angel of an embezzler. You are literally the plush pillow that slides right under my head when I'm passing out. Now that's what I call true loyalty. I had barely taken 2 steps out of the carriage, and trouble came strutting straight toward me. Like some unwanted fashion show I never bought tickets to see. Turns out gossip spreads like wildfire around these parts. "Joe, did you hear some random dude actually survive the sun execution?" And just like that, every single bored, aristocratic brat with way too much free time showed up to check out the sideshow freak. First up, a blonde, high-maintenance, pretty boy strutting in with 4 armed knights flanking him, looking like he's trying to be a medieval rap star. Enter Luke Wilde, son of Viscount Wilde. Naturally, my cheat skill pinged him immediately. Luke Wilde, 4th son of Viscount Wilde, who is actually the secret love child of the Viscountess, and her side piece, currently simping hard for Talleyrand, due to a rather dark, unspeakable secret. Well. So he isn't even a real Wilde, after all. Man, this drama is getting spicy already. Standing right beside him was a girl with chestnut hair, pinching her nose shut, as if my mere presence was a personal assault on her nostrils. Which, fair enough, I probably do. Reek like a compost pile that just sat in a sauna. Ugh, the air in the capital has gotten so disgusting lately. Tally Ram, youngest daughter of Baron Ram. Her dad once tried to set up an arranged marriage between her and Leon Edward, but the Edward family turned down the proposal. The official reason given? Too ugly. Ah, so that's why she holds a grudge against me. The old Edward family straight up told her father no, called her ugly, and kicked him to the curb. No wonder she went full supervillain on me. Rumor has an anonymous tip from Baron Ram is the main reason our family got busted so fast. During the uprising, a scorned woman plus a golden political opportunity equals absolute ruin. Classic trope. Oh my goodness. Isn't that young Lord Leon Edward? How on earth did you end up looking like a homeless beggar? She purred, dripping with the fake sympathy I've ever heard. Honestly, who even let the Edwards join a rebellion in the first place? Just letting you stay alive is practically an act of charity. Word is you're being banished to the Red Moon territory. How fitting for you. It's crawling with uncivilized savages. Oh no, Luke. You got all wrong. There are no savages out there. Only bloodthirsty monsters. And their little posse of knights and stooges. We're just yapping along like trained puppies. The boss drops a lame joke. They crack up. The boss roasts somebody. They all pile on, Super original, guys. Meanwhile, old Butler Bess was turning redder than a ripe tomato. Back when the Edwards were running the show, these nobody side characters wouldn't have dared to even breathe near our direction. Now, they're practically throwing a party on our grave. Still, Bess kept his mouth shut. I mean, 0 knights, 0 guards. Just one broke, crusty teenage baron. And an old butler who'd been cooking the books. Yeah, not exactly a dream squad. That's when Tally decided to drop her ultimate flex. Oh, poor Leon. I heard all the Edward family wealth got seized. You probably can't even afford slaves or gear now. Can you? Tell you what. Drop to your knees and lick my shoe. And maybe I'll toss a couple gold coins your way. She literally raised her leg to flex her flashy boot. And just to make the extra disrespectful, she straight up stomped in some mud first. The crowd went absolutely wild. Do it. Lick it. You're basically a homeless beggar anyway. What's a little boot licking? Meanwhile, Bess was having a full-blown existential crisis in his head. His inner monologue went something like, 2 gold coins to make the young master bow down? Wait, I've got over 2,000 gold coins sitting around. With that conversion rate, I can make him bow 1,000 times. Hold on, no. Bad Bess. Loyalty. Then he saw me reach down and lost his absolute mind. Young master, stop. You don't need their pocket change. I've got cash. Boom, there it was. The magic words. My guy just exposed his own stash in front of everyone, just because he thought I was actually about to lick a shoe. Except, I wasn't stooping down for anyone's footwear. I was just grabbing my agate button that fell. Bro, these things are literally my only real assets right now. I started with a whole handful, and now I'm down to 3. So every single button counts. Bess realized how hard he fumbled about half a second later. You could literally watch pure regret wash over his face like a slow-mo tsunami. That was his entire life savings he just offered up. Decades of secretly skimming off the household funds. Poof, gone in one panic attack. Then Luke stepped up, trying to act all slick. What? You won't do it. If you make Lady Tally look good, maybe I'll throw in a few coins myself. I just smirked. Time to flip the script. You know, I really thought the son of Viscount Wall would at least have a basic education. But clearly, none of you idiots even understand how trial by punishment works. Wait, what do you mean? Tally's foot was still awkwardly hovering in midair. She'd been holding that pose for so long. Her leg was definitely starting to cramp up. The moment she hit the realization that I had 0 plans of licking a single thing, she vented her anger by kicking one of her own lackeys instead. The servant instantly dropped down to their knees and started scrubbing her boot clean. Man, imagine being that guy. Your job duties basically mandate polishing boots on the spot whenever someone throws a tantrum. I ran my hands through my unwashed hair, setting the stage dramatically for my big speech, and broke down the hard facts for them. Undergoing the sun punishment means the sun god personally puts you on trial if you manage to last 7 full days. That proves the sun god has officially cleared your name. Not only do you walk away free, you actually get awarded a noble title. So the guy standing right in front of you isn't some broke, homeless guy or a dirty criminal. I am Baron Leon Edward, and I let that heavy truth sit for a moment. Now, you commoners without a single title, just openly disrespecting a landed noble breaks Imperial Law Article 124. Insulting a aristocrat of higher standing slaps you with a 1,000 gold coin penalty, or a 5 to 10 year prison sentence. There are 7 of you here, so that comes to 7,000 gold coins. Or would you guys rather take the jail time instead? The expressions on their faces were absolute gold. And I mean that completely literally. It was literally worth 7,000 gold coins. You see, this whole scenario was a total trap. Those 2 agate buttons that I handed off to those beggars earlier. I instructed them to spread rumors about poor, tragic Leon Edward right outside the Ram family estate. I knew Tally wouldn't be able to resist showing up to rub it in. That girl holds grudges like an absolute professional. Why didn't see coming was the extra bonus package. Tally dragged along Luke the simping fool and 5 of his henchmen. Talk about a buy 1 get 6 free deal. Handing over those 2 agate buttons was easily the best move I've ever pulled off. Luke and Tally try to play it cool and act tough, but their bodyguards and servants were visibly panicking. 1,000 gold coins ahead is definitely not small change for low-level hired muscle. Lord Luke, Lady Tally, if he actually turned into a baron, maybe we should just back off. A baron? Come on. A convicted traitor can't hold a title. That makes 0 sense. Luke was still trying so hard to flex for Tally, man. Bro, she is never going to pick you. You don't even... Alright, whatever. Enough waste of time. I dispatched Bess to bring back the guards who had escorted me here. They hadn't walked too far, so the guard returned, stood sharply at attention, and declared with total military respect, Baron, sir, What are your commands? Literally every single jaw in a room dropped at the exact same time. 1 second, I'm a disgraced criminal sentenced to die. And the next second, I'm a full-fledged baron, getting formally saluted by the Imperial Guards. Talk about an absolute speed run of a character arc, baby. And here is the best part, being the sixth son. I was never going to inherit the Edward Earldom in the first place. But now I've snagged a title of my own, earned directly by surviving a literal divine trial. This isn't some second-hand nobility handed down to me. This status is God-certified. I basically walked out of our entire family disaster with a massive rank upgrade. Tally forced herself to swallow her pride and turned to walk away. Luke tagged along right behind her like the loyal little lapdog he is. I watched them walk off with a smirk on my face. Hold up, where do you think you guys are headed? Did I ever give you permission to leave? The crowd dispersed faster than roaches when the lights suddenly flick on. Turns out, nobody wants to hang around. When a massive 1,000 gold fine is hanging over their heads, sell all these folks off, and they still couldn't cover that tab. The guards were throwing me these super conflicted looks, and I could read their thoughts plain as day. We definitely don't want to pick a fight with a new baron, but we really don't want to piss off the influential families stationed here in the capital. Smart move on their part. Total cowards, but definitely smart. Luckily, Tally and Luke were way too shaken to notice. Their minds were practically freezing up. From the legal beatdown I had just dropped on them. So, I kept the pressure on. Fork over the cash, or march with me to the Hall of Justice. And let's be real. Nobles slapped with a criminal record get treated like complete garbage for the rest of their lives. Are you guys seriously ready to trash your whole future over this? Your call. Why couldn't the sun god just strike you down already? Tally threw a massive tantrum and chucked a pouch of coins at me, as if the money itself had insulted her. I signaled Best to go pick it up, and he tallied it up carefully. My lord, there's only 500 in here. Tally's entire face flushed bright red like a tomato, breathing so heavily that I genuinely thought her fancy dress was about to burst right at the seams. She glared absolute daggers at Luke, the universal sign every girlfriend gives to. Pay up, simp. And Luke, bless his desperate little heart, just couldn't pass up the opportunity to play the hero, right in front of his crush. He immediately ordered his servants to haul a giant chest full of gold, straight out of his carriage. Now, here's the funniest part. That stash was originally Luke's private bribe fund, meant to buy his way into the Sun God Church. He had been hoarding that cash to bribe his entry into seminary. And now, every single coin was landing straight into my pockets instead. Sorry about that, man. Guess the Lord really does move in mysterious ways. Best popped the chest wide open, and his eyes literally popped out his head. They practically turned into dollar signs on the spot. This man had spent decades quietly skimming money off the top, and I just completely eclipsed his entire life of crime. In a single quick exchange, you could literally pinpoint the second. His brain reevaluated all his life decisions. You know what? Maybe sticking with this kid isn't such a bad idea, even if we were heading straight into werewolf territory. My lord, Best called out, there's an extra 500 in here. Hand it back. We don't take a single coin more than what's owed. Best carefully set Tally's original pouch right back down, placing it on the dirt exactly where she had tossed it. His lordship insists that we cannot accept any extra funds from outside parties. Simply poetic. She threw it on the ground to mock me, and now I'm serving it right back to her on the ground to crush her pride. If she stoops down to grab it, she's admitting she got totally outsmarted. If she leaves it behind, she just flushed 500 gold down the drain. In the end, Tally chose her ego. She stormed off in a huff, without even looking back. Her retinue scrambled to keep up with her, resembling little ducklings hustling behind a furious mother duck. Luke, on the flip side, had abandoned every last shred of dignity as he scooped up that pouch. Quicker than a seagull swiping a French fry, shot me a dirty look and spat. Get lost to the Red Moon territory. You scoundrel. Safe travels. Don't be a stranger. I called out, waving goodbye, just like I was sending off an old buddy at the terminal. Once the whole crew cleared out, I gave the chest of gold a gentle pat and turned to Best. Care to guess what this is called? Best cocked his head. Cash. We call this a stupidity fee. Best bowed his head in utter reverence, even though he clearly didn't have a clue what that meant. Back in this era, the whole notion of IQ hadn't even been thought of yet, let alone slapping a fee on someone for lacking intelligence. With the drama finally behind us, I could at last tend to some basic human requirements. A steaming bath, fresh attire, and a solid hot meal, you know, the standard stuff I was deprived of for a whole week, because I was stuck playing the role of a living sundial, freshly scrubbed clean. and no longer stench-ridden like a homicide scene. I sat down across from Best to review our finances. So, Best, what does our bank account look like? My Lord Baron, every single asset of the Edward family was confiscated, including the 7,000 gold pieces collected today. As of right now, we're sitting on precisely 6,998 gold pieces. A pair of coins went toward your quarters, fresh wardrobe, and dinner. Hold on, that shouldn't be the grand total. Didn't you claim earlier that you had funds of your own? Best looked like he wanted to punch himself into the middle of. Next week for blabbing. Why did I have to run my big mouth? I do possess a modest personal stash, roughly 500 gold coins. 500 out of 2,200? Bro, this guy literally just surrendered a quarter of his hidden savings and tried to pass it off as his entire fortune. Honestly, you've got to respect the hustle. I decided to let it slide. A 25% surrender rate is surprisingly loyal for a fellow who is literally plotting to crawl back to his ex-wife just 12 hours ago. All right, let's move. We're going shopping. Slaves and weaponry are up first. Wouldn't you prefer to catch some rest first? The crown typically grants nobility a full week to make preparations. If I don't put this cash to work immediately, I won't be breathing long enough to enjoy it down the road. Those two are almost certainly dispatching hitmen to hunt me down. At this very second. Hitmen. However, you are an aristocrat. Assassinating an aristocrat is a crime punishable by absolutely nothing. If there's no body left to look into, the Edward bloodline is officially wiped out. Best, I'm practically a rootless weed sprouting out of sidewalk crack. Zero connections, zero backing, zero security. Anybody could take me out and write it off as a mugging gone wrong. Now move. Best went ghost white. He wasn't merely fearing for my survival. It hit him that if I bite the dust, he'll likely end up dumped in the exact same ditch right alongside me. Nothing lights a fire under a manservant quite like basic self-preservation. In a matter of moments, he had secured a carriage, and we were tearing down the road toward the nearest slave bazaar. Time to go recruit ourselves a personal militia. We piled right into the carriage, and right on cue, my broken skill spilled some tea that I definitely didn't ask for. Sure, this looks like a regular carriage, except 2 days ago, Priest Y'all and Mrs. Branny were having a secret hookup in here. I mentally made a note of this Priest Y'all guy. Hey, you never know when some juicy church scandal might come in handy down the line. 2 blocks later, we pulled up to the dust market, the absolute largest slave market in the whole capital. These folks only open up at sundown and operate straight until 2 a.m., which, let's be real, has got to be the absolute worst work shift on the planet. The cramped alleyways were overflowing with shops, and every single storefront had slaves lined up on display, wooden price tags hanging around their necks, like messed up human Christmas ornaments. Most of them were shoved inside cages, dozens crammed together in conditions that would make a tin of sardines feel like a 5-star penthouse. The lineup here felt straight out of fantasy RPG. Character select screen, goblins, dwarves, beastkin, demi-human, and even a few pathetic little skeleton mobs. Believe it or not, actual humans were a rare sight. And then, you had the VIP luxury section. Gorgeous elf girls and adorable cat-eared maids, locked in individual VIP cages, glammed up and priced like high-end sports cars. My system sheet had a complete field day with this. Look, a stunning elf. She's been resold 5 different times. Yet the dealer is pushing her as brand new. Here's a cute beast girl. Already popped out 3 wolf pups, and the seller still claims she's never been used. And over here, a cross-dressing subhuman dude. He's been flipped, yeah. Yeah, this premium section was literally just a sketchy used car dealership, where every single vehicle had its mileage rolled way back. Yeah, hard pass on all of these. I wasn't browsing for eye candy here. I desperately needed people with actual practical value. So I kept moving, checking shop after shop, scanning everything with my broken cheat ability, getting nothing but useless trash pop-ups for 7 or 8 stores straight. And then, ping, this timid, bully little girl will grow up to become the Supreme Witch. My eyes almost popped straight out of my head. The Supreme Witch? Let me break down just how insane that is. In this realm, it's the moon goddess herself who blesses witches with power. Once awakened, a witch gains control over natural magic itself. We are talking bottomless, infinite mana, siphoned directly from the surrounding world. They're literally walking catastrophes. The Empire has stood for over 300 years, and it's only produced a total of 52 witches in history, with every single one hailing from elite, top-tier, noble bloodlines. Your average mages? They gotta wring magic out of their own bodies, relying on runes and complex rituals. It's like squeezing the last drops of water from a dry towel. But witches? They just open the floodgates and let the entire ocean pour through. And right here, tucked inside this filthy, run-down slave shop, crouched inside a cage, was the undiscovered prodigy destined to lead them all. She was just a girl with white hair wearing a black gothic dress, curled up in a tight ball, burying her face in her knees, doing everything in her power to stay unnoticed. She had intentionally smeared dirt all over her cheeks. The slaver had tried washing her face time and time again, yet she constantly caked it right back up without fail. Not even brutal beatings could break her. Pound for pound, this kid possessed more pure stubbornness than practically anyone I'd ever come across. Catching me staring, the merchant instantly switched into full-on salesman mode. Reaching right into the cage, he yanked her head up by the chin. "You got top-tier taste, my lord. Fresh arrival. Just look at those crimson eyes. She's high-born nobility from the north. Give her a few years of meals, and she'll make an absolute ideal little." He raised his whip to strike her again for the dirty face. So I snagged it mid-air before it could land. "If you end up breaking her, are you planning to sell yourself as her replacement?" The merchant's fake sales grin instantly cracked. "And my apologies, sir. If you're genuinely interested in her, she's yours for a mere 500 gold coins. 500. He marked the price way up simply because he saw me step in. "Rookie mistake, buddy. You just tipped your hand and showed how desperate you are to unload her. Though honestly, for a future Grand Witch, 500 gold is absolute chump change. The real trick is, this hustler has no idea she's a prodigy in the making. Time to pull off what I do best." I would have gladly handed over the 500 gold, I said smoothly, but you just swung a whip at a noble. You do know the exact imperial penalty for that, don't you? The merchant blinked in confusion. "Wait, say what?" You grabbed onto him. "Why whip? I wasn't trying to hit you at all. Striking a noble, even by complete accident, is a severe crime." Best jumped into the conversation right on cue. At this point, the guy has developed a total Pavlovian reflex to the phrase. Imperial law. His eyes light up, and he practically starts drooling, like a dog reacting to a dinner bell. "That's right. You just assaulted our baron. You explicitly broke imperial law." Best was clutching that chest of gold tighter than ever, and I could practically hear the gears turning in his head. More cash, more cash. Hand over even more crates for me to carry. I don't care if my spine snaps in half. Just load me up with gold." The merchant's knees completely gave out the moment he heard baron. He collapsed straight to the dirt like a heavy sack of bricks. See, nobody in this day and age dares to fake a noble title. Impersonating nobility is a fast track to getting your head chopped off. So if someone claims to be a baron, you take their word for it. "Lord Baron, please, I beg for your mercy. I had no idea. As for this girl, just take her. She's yours for free. Please accept her as my formal apology." Now, here's where I executed the play flawlessly. Free? Absolutely not. A high nobleman stepping into a slave market and taking goods without paying? That is completely beneath my status. Name your price. The merchant looked as if his brain was actively short-circuiting. He actually wants to pay? You really insist on paying? I insist. In that case, 500 GOL. He stopped mid-sentence as the sheer terror of the law rushed back in. Just 0.1 gold coin. It's a deal. I should probably hand over a single gold coin. The white-haired girl stood there in complete shock, jaw practically on the floor. Back when she was still high-class nobility, 1 gold coin wouldn't even be enough to buy her a single toy doll. The slave merchant then whipped out the ownership contract. "This right here is a blood contract. If she ever betrays you or even thinks about hurting you, she'll endure agonizing heart pain until she dies." I signed my name and instantly felt the magical bond lock into place. I waved goodbye to the totally bewildered merchant as he walked off. Bess simply couldn't keep quiet any longer. "My Lord Baron, why on earth did you buy this little brat? She has absolutely zero combat skills. She's totally useless when it comes to pioneering. Such dangerous land." I reached over and patted the little white-haired kid's head. "She's a growth stock, Bess. Raise her right, and forget about just pioneering some land. We could literally pioneer an entire nation." "Wait, a nation?" Bess nearly choked on his own spit right then and there. The Edward family was just executed for treason level. Treasonous activities. And here I am, casually dropping plans about founding a new kingdom. "My Lord Baron, I beg of you, we need to focus on what's ahead, not what's behind us. We can't live consumed by hatred. We have to prepare for the future." I completely ignored his full-on panic attack and patted the little girl's cute, round head again. "So, what's your name?" "The white-haired little girl." turned her head away and gave me the ultimate silent treatment. Full Tsundere mode, fully activated. Unfortunately for her, her stomach had other ideas. It let out a rumble so loud. I genuinely thought a wild animal was trapped under her clothes. I immediately sent Bess off to grab us some food. He came back with rock-hard dry bread and cheap grilled sausages. The kind of questionable meal that makes prison food look like a Michelin star feast. Our proud little princess stared down at the food. Her eyes screamed, absolutely not, while her mouth was already producing a whole river of drool. She was currently fighting the ultimate internal conflict of her short little life. I will not yield. I'm a proud noble. I refuse to lower myself. And just like that, she snatched the food and inhaled it, like a high-power vacuum on max speed. In her mind, she convinced herself that the blood contract was forcing her to eat this totally out of her control. Yep, the magic contract made her do it. 100% facts. Case closed. Sure, kiddo. Whatever helps you cope, honestly. Whoa, slow down there, or even choke. Here, wash it down with water. She grabbed the water canteen and chugged it down, without even making eye contact with me. Then, in the quietest whisper known to human civilization, she mumbled, just because you fed me doesn't mean I'm going to tell you my name is Aurora. She only gave me her first name and kept her surname hidden. Clever girl. Her family name is basically outlawed up north, and she wasn't about to let me turn her in for a bounty reward. She really thinks she's a master strategist. Well, to be fair, she is pretty sharp for a filthy little gremlin. Anyway, red, orange, yellow, green, a drop-dead gorgeous Aurora. I couldn't resist softly singing. She gaped at me like I'd totally lost my mind. What is this psycho singing about? And who on earth is he calling beautiful? My face literally has dirt smeared across it like war paint. Following that sweet little bonding moment, we kept browsing through the dusk market. That's when I realized something super annoying. Constantly running my cheat skill was completely zapping my energy. My belly started rumbling, practically echoing Aurora's earlier growl. I snagged a piece of stale bread and started munching. As we walked, Bess practically teared up seeing me eat bottom-tier peasant bread. The original Leon Edward was a spoiled, wealthy noble who probably had never set eyes on bread this cheap. Yet here was his young master wolfing it down, like a broke college kid surviving on instant noodles. At the end of the month, 2 long hours of searching, 31 gold coins blown, I managed to pick up farming hoes, a few blades, and some basic armor. But actually useful recruits? Absolutely zero. My cheat skill continuously evaluated every single slave we passed, only to feed me utterly mediocre stats. Bess was clearly running out of patience. Lord Baron, what kind of slave are you actually after? Those beastmen back there seemed pretty capable. If I really can't find anything better, sure, we can grab a few beastmen. Honestly though, those beastmen couldn't even stand against a knight trainee. No wonder they got captured and sold off. Hard pass. That's when I stopped, right in front of cage, crammed with 20 tiny skeleton monsters. Ping! This fragile skeleton, which breaks at a mere touch, will eventually reign as the undead emperor. Wait, hold on, what? The literal undead emperor. Sitting in a discount cage at a slave market? The chubby merchant waddled right over. The moment he caught me looking. You've got great taste, customer. I'm the sole undead specialist in this entire market. Every single skeleton here is fully trained and totally harmless. Need a guard? Give a skeleton knight a shot. Want a pet? These little skellies are absolutely adorable. Round, white, super cute. They've got everything you could want, except flesh. I took a quick glance at the merchant. My cheat revealed he had a creepy thing for dead bodies. Well, that certainly explains his line of work. I pointed directly at the most pitiful, weakest little skeleton sitting in that cage. The exact one that looked like it would crumble if someone so much as sneezed nearby. How much for this one? 50 copper coins. The shopkeeper couldn't hide his disappointment. 50 coppers was practically pocket change, considering 1 gold coin equals 1,000 coppers. This skeleton was priced cheaper than a quick meal. Honestly, skeletons this week usually get thrown in as free bonus items. Best paid the guy without a second thought. To him, this was literal chump change. Just his master buying a random, weird toy. I signed off on the contract, and we headed out. Best looked over our grand army, 1 tiny, mud-covered girl, and a single skeleton that seemed ready to shatter, if you even looked at it the wrong way. Just an old, embezzling butler. And me, a sun-baked baron, looking like a glorified scarecrow in fancy clothes. My lord, you seriously plan on pioneering the Red Moon territory with just a kid and a skeleton? His voice cracked with every single word. The guy was having a full-blown mental breakdown in slow motion. What he didn't realize, though, was that my useless kid was a future archmage, capable of wiping whole cities off the map, and my trash skeleton was a future undead emperor, who could command vast armies of the dead. But hey, feel free to keep panicking. In my head, the game plan was dead simple. If the future undead emperor can't farm, I'll teach him. If the future archmage can't fight werewolves, I'll train her. And while she's at it, she can tame those wolf pups into guard dogs. Talk about peak efficiency. Since the slave market was picked clean, our next best move was hiring mercenaries to escort us straight to the Red Moon territory. We strolled right into the Wilmore Mercenary Company, just as an enraged customer stormed out, screaming bloody murder over their prices. 500 gold for a single escort. Why don't you just rob people at gunpoint? Sitting behind the front desk was a blonde woman, wearing an outfit that left absolutely nothing to the imagination. Her proportions were so wildly unreal. She looked straight out of a video game I used to play in my past life. Welcome. How can I help you today? She flashed a professional customer service smile. Bess stepped up since handling the logistics was his job, as my one and only servant, explaining that we needed an escort to the Red Moon territory. We offer 3 different tiers. First, the Super Squad, led by a powerful 3-star knight captain, along with 5 elite 2-star knights who can handle any threat. That's 500 gold per trip. Next is the Elite Squad, led by a 2-star knight captain, plus 10 1-star knights, built for most dangerous missions, running at 300 gold. Finally, the Basic Squad, led by a 1-star knight captain, with 20 trainees and muscle, meant for easy trips for just 10 gold. She kept shooting side eyes at me while explaining, and I could practically read her mind. Asterisk, can this scrawny, sunburnt dude with a muddy kid and a literal skeleton actually afford any of this? Asterisk. Naturally, she started aggressively pushing the budget options. Bess's eyes instantly lit up at the price of the Basic Squad. At 10 gold pop, he could hire 10 whole basic squads. That's 200 sales words for a measly 100 gold coins. What a bargain. I could literally see the gears grinding inside his penny-pinching brain. Asterisk, 200 guys. That's enough to scare off every bandit on the road. And it only costs. Asterisk, I'll take 4 super squads. Bess's soul instantly left his body. Are you sure? Don't you mean 4 basic squads or 4 elite squads? You seriously want 4 super squads? The blonde receptionist looked like she thought her hearing was playing tricks on her. Look, lady, my ears work just fine, and so does my survival instinct. I'm literally stepping foot into werewolf territory with a massive target on my back. This is not the time to be cutting coupons. Yeah, I'm dead serious. Bess looked like someone was literally ripping gold coins directly out of his chest. The blonde's eyes lit up with every single offer, looking like she just hit the jackpot. Which, let's be real, she practically did. She slipped around from behind the counter and leaned up right against my arm, her top half making full, unmistakable contact with my elbow, as she guided me into the private room. To seal the deal, while Bess glared with heavy suspicion, Aurora cocked her head, watching me walk off, clueless if she should follow her new boss into whatever went down behind closed doors. Relax, guys, the private room was strictly business. No funny business, just ruthless upselling. This girl could pitch ice to an Eskimo. By the time I stepped back out, I dropped 2,000 gold on 4 super squad escorts, another 2,000 gold on an awakening stone, plus 100 gold for 10 health potions, bringing the grand total to 4,100 gold. Her 1% cut netted her a cool 41 gold coins. And overnight, I transformed from some frail, sun-baked outsider into the most dashing, distinguished gentleman alive. Crazy how money changes things. She probably would have shot her shot, if not for the fact that she correctly figured out that anyone hiring 4 hit squads just for basic protection isn't exactly playing the long game with their lifespan. Sharp and money-driven, my favorite kind of person. When I finally emerged from the private room, my face was practically covered in lipstick marks, a little complimentary token from the salesgirl. Aurora narrowed her eyes as her tiny nose twitched, catching that strong perfume smell right away. A total little bloodhound. Meanwhile, Bess glared at me with pure jealousy. The guy's got 1 foot in the grave, and the other wishes it was living my life. Look, it's not what you think. Those were just standard thank you kisses for the massive purchase. 100% professional. Neither of them bought it, though, not even for a second. So I wiped off the marks, snagged the paperwork, and took off. The mercenary knights were set to meet me at my inn by sundown to start their guard duty. After that, I sent Bess on a massive shopping spree. A whole month's worth of food for 30 people. A huge 4-wheeled carriage. Horses, blankets, and extra clothes, blowing through another 300 gold coins. The carriage alone set me back over 100. Because apparently, in this world, anything that carries more than 4 passengers costs as much as a pre-owned luxury car. That left my current bankroll sitting at roughly 3,067 gold coins. By nightfall, all 4 elite squads showed up for duty. The 4 leaders went by Big Beard Kundi, Red-Nosed Deer, Big-Eared Sis, and Scarface Mondo, backed up by their top-tier knights. A total of 20 battle-hardened veterans. Now, the Awakening Stone was obviously meant for Aurora, but I couldn't actually use it on her just yet. The kid was literally nothing but skin and bones. Here's a fun fact this world leaves out of the brochure. The real reason only noble women end up becoming witches has zero to do with royal bloodlines or fate. It's simply because they actually get fed. Magic requires a properly nourished body to function. No calories, no magic. The moon goddess doesn't hand out cheat abilities to starving kids. Simply put, I've got to feed up this little gremlin first, if I ever want to unlock her world-shattering potential. I also needed to blow my remaining 3,000 gold on a magical artifact from the Mage Guild. Ideally, something that could buff up my pathetic weak stats. Because right now, forget exploring high-level dangerous zones. I didn't even have enough stamina to survive. A simple dinner date with the sales lady. Later that night, it turned out splurging on elite security was a total 200 IQ play. I literally got target assassinated 3 separate times in one night. Wave 1 was courtesy of our buddy Luke, and that cheapskate only hired 3. Measly 1-star knight assassins, just 3, to take out a baron who literally just dropped 2,000 gold on bodyguards. These low-tier mobs got wiped out so fast. My mercenaries didn't even get a chance to warm up. And since Luke hired budget bin hitmen, they had 0 loyalty. The exact second they got captured, they sang like birds and spilled everything. Names, dates, the exact amount Luke paid them. Heck, probably even a shoe size too. Wave 2 came directly from Tallyram. Now she at least showed a little bit of respect. She dispatched the Ram family's personal knight unit. 1 3-star knight leading, 5 2-star knights. Now, that's a proper hit squad. Solid effort. Honestly, 8 out of 10 for dedication. Unfortunately for them, they ran straight face first into 20 elite mercenaries and got absolutely crushed. But unlike Luke's bargain bin killers, these guys stubbornly refused to talk. Noble knights, noble silence. Didn't matter at all, though, because my system cheat revealed every piece of info I needed anyway. Wave 3 was actually legit concerning. A group of masked 3-star knights suddenly jumped us. They failed to kill me, but managed to slip away cleanly without leaving a single trace. Professional, clean, and creepy. I had absolutely no idea who sent them. The Edward family must have pissed off some seriously major players that I was completely unaware of. Someone crazy powerful wanted my head. And this wasn't just some salty Viscount's son or a rejected bride anymore. Yep, time to skip town ASAP. The next morning, Big Beard helpfully lined up every captured assassin out in the inn's courtyard. They were bound up and kneeling in a perfect, neat row, looking like the saddest chorus line in the world. Kenny didn't bother pressing them on who hired them, which was smart. Mercenaries are sales words, not politicians. They do their job, collect their pay, and stay clear of noble drama. Honestly, I could respect that. Lord Baron, we've secured all of last night's assassins right here. A few managed to escape, but they're heavily injured, so they shouldn't cause any trouble anytime soon. Big Beard's sister grinned and added, and if they dare show their faces again, we'll beat them so hard they'll regret ever being born. Would you like to interrogate them yourself, sir, to figure out who put the hit on you? I glanced over at the row of tied-up killers and said, no need. Execute them all. All 4 mercenary captains completely froze up. They just stared right at me, looking like I just casually ordered takeout, rather than calling for a mass execution. They knew the score. A few of these assassins belonged to the Wild family, and taking out folks connected to nobility is a super tricky business full of messy paperwork, potential retaliation, and endless political headaches. But Big Beard, man, he was secretly loving every second of it, since he'd been thinking the exact same thing. These hitmen had already blown their mission anyway, and keeping them breathing was only going to stir up trouble for everyone involved. Dead men tell no tales, and even better, dead men don't file formal complaints. The moment he drew his blade, the assassins panicked. Hold up, do you guys even know who we work for? You can't just slaughter us. The assassins actually thought their little speech worked, all because Big Beard obligingly sheathed his sword and took a quick step back. They immediately puffed out their chests like pigeons, and started running their big mouths. You'd better let us loose right now. Our boss is a huge deal around this capital. You really can't afford to get on his bad side. Yeah, unhand us this second, or you'll be down on your knees begging for mercy. Honestly, begging won't even save you. You'll be hunted down forever. Funny how just 5 minutes ago, these same clowns are trying to gank me in my sleep. And now they're playing the victim like I'm the bully. Old Bess shuffled over and began whispering in my ear, shaking like a chihuahua caught in a thunderstorm. Lord Baron, maybe we ought to just set them free? We already have the knights to protect us, and we really shouldn't go making more enemies. Right before we depart. The guy had clearly slept like a baby last night, cuddling that chest of gold coins like a giant teddy bear, only to wake up and realize our backyard had basically turned into an assassin showcase. Poor old guy almost suffered stroke, but there was no way I was letting anyone walk away scotch-free. Imperial Law, Article 156. Attempting to assassinate a newly appointed noble comes with severe legal penalties. If the perpetrator is a fellow noble, it results in heavy fines or demotion. If they're a commoner, it's straight to the death penalty. So, which big shot boss of yours wants to take a personal trip to the Judgment Hall? All over a bunch of failed hitmen, Bess cleared his throat loudly and chimed in. That's right, you dare to attack Baron Edward, ruler of the Red Moon territory. Totally unforgivable. The assassins exchanged anxious looks, harsh reality hitting them like an ice-cold shower. They knew I was totally right. The exact second they blew the job, their bosses were going to act like they never even existed. They try to bluff their way out using their master's reputation, and I just smacked that card right out of their hands. Fast forward through 5 minutes of legal threats, and these same tough guys were literally down on their knees begging, "Please, Lord Baron, we were only following orders. In fact, we weren't even sent here to kill you." Oh, how original. All right, let's hear it then. Who exactly were you guys sent to kill? The assassin's eyes scanned the room frantically, before locking right on a Bess. Him. We were sent to take out the old guy. Yeah, the old man was totally our target. Bess nearly lost control of his bladder right then and there. His finger was trembling like a busted compass as he pointed back at the kneeling hitmen. Me? Why? I've never done anything to any of you. Doesn't matter. You crossed people you shouldn't have. This is all just a huge misunderstanding, Lord Baron. I stroked my chin and glanced down at my terrified butler. Well, Bess, what do you think I ought to do here? I really don't know, my lord. I'm still trying to figure out who I even pissed off. The guy was legitimately clueless. Bless his scheming little heart. I turned over to Kindy. Captain, what's your take? Kindy folded his arms. Our contract is strictly to protect you. Anything beyond that isn't our concern. Classic mercenary mentality. I get paid to swing a sword, not to analyze politics. Kill them all. Nobody lays a finger on my people, either. Bess instantly broke down sobbing. This humble servant swears eternal devotion to the Lord Baron. See that? All it takes is a single execution order to transform a cheap, money-laundering butler into a ride-or-die. Loyalist, you can't execute us. We work for Baron Ram. We're Viscount Wild's men. And just like that, the assassins accidentally blabbed that they were sent by 2 completely different nobles. They didn't even realize they were working for different bosses until this very second. Great teamwork, fellas. Truly a top-tier operation. I glanced over at Kindy, and Kindy, along with his entire squad, spun around in perfect harmony, clapped their hands over their ears, and declared, "We didn't hear a thing. We didn't see a thing." That was the most synchronized display of not my problem I have ever witnessed. These guys have definitely rehearsed that. There is zero doubt in my mind. Fine then. If the pros refuse to do it, I'll just use my own guy. I shoved my tiny skeleton forward. Joe, Abin. Time to step up and shine. Abin. That's the name I ended up giving my little skeleton buddy. After purchasing him, he was barely taller than Aurora, limped around from years of abuse at the hands of slave traders, and looked like a gentle breeze could knock him right over. He whipped out his dull little knife and shuffled toward the hitman, with all the terrifying presence of a baby duckling, waddling up to a breadcrumb. Abing, finish this guy off first. I pointed directly at the loudest assassin. Today's lesson. The squeaky will get the grease. Abing waddled over, rusty blade in hand. The assassin shot him a glare, and Abing instantly dropped straight to the ground, curled into a tiny ball, and started shivering uncontrollably. Ha ha ha! This pathetic little toy is actually trying to kill us. The hitmen were dying of laughter, and honestly, I couldn't even blame them. I patted Abing on his skull. Bro, come on. You're destined to become an emperor one day. Get up and run him through. Just pretend he's the guy who murdered your dad. Ah Bing just stared back at me with a totally blank expression, right? The dude's a skeleton. He literally doesn't have a dad. He doesn't have parents at all. He was straight up spawned out of thin air. Time for a quick change of strategy. Hey, Ah Bing, you want some tasty bones to munch on? Instantly, those empty eye sockets flared up with soul fire. Bones. Bones. He was obsessed with bones, considering the only ones he'd ever gotten. To gnaw on were his own. Take him out, and his bones are all yours. Ah Bing grabbed that blunt blade and lunged forward, without a second thought, jamming it right into the assassin's rear end. The blood-curdling shriek that exploded out of that guy was loud enough to shatter windows 3 realms away. Now, here's the nasty truth about dull knives. They are infinitely worse than sharp ones. Ask anyone. A blunt blade inflicts 10 times the agony. And as for his targeting, let's just say Ah Bing's precision needed some major work. He glanced over at Asura, who was already hiding her face behind her tiny hands. Just for the record, I did not tell him to aim for the butt. She bolted straight back inside the building. Turns out, future high witches really don't have the stomach for brutal rear-end stabbings. But I just let Ah Bing keep going. Stab after bloody stab. That dull knife made the entire process painfully slow. 30 stabs later, the assassin finally dropped dead. Those horrific screams had echoed through the entire inn, and every single guest staying inside realized one thing loud and clear. That scrawny, tanned baron who looked like he couldn't even twist open a jar? Yeah, he's an absolute psychopathic nightmare. But scaring everyone wasn't even the real payoff here. You see, skeleton monsters rank up by racking up kills. Every single kill allows them to harvest a fragment of their victim's soul power. The stronger the enemy, the bigger the soul fragment. And for a skeleton, packing the potential of a future undead emperor, I was guessing Ah Bing could siphon off at least 1% of the soul per target. That first assassin was a 2-star knight, which meant Ah Bing just scored his first proper feast and unlocked his very first evolution. My little shaking coward was officially growing up. One rear-end stab at a time. Ah Bing transformed from a pathetic little runt into a towering 6-foot skeleton. After just one single kill spree, the guy was so hyped about his new height that he literally started dancing on the spot. And not just any dance, mind you. He broke into that ridiculous booty shake dance that creep of a slave merchant had taught him earlier. Seriously, hand the skeleton a steel pole, and he could genuinely make it in the adult entertainment industry. I couldn't watch. I physically had to look away. Right on cue, my cheat status panel popped up with his updated stats. Skeleton. Ah Bing has evolved from low-level skeleton servant to mid-level skeleton servant. Skills. Basic bone claw / basic dull knife thrust. Advanced booty shake dance. Are you kidding me, master? Weak soul fire. Barely alive. His most advanced skill is a seductive dance. Man, I'm so proud of him. Okay. All right, I hear you. You're thrilled. Let's keep moving. Ah Bing grabbed his rusty old blade and locked onto Hitman number 2. The remaining hitmen were completely terrified, blubbering, pleading for mercy, the whole dramatic routine. A few of them even attempted to bite off their own tongues, just to end it all, which I totally saw coming from miles away. So I had stuffed rags into every single one of their mouths. Sorry, boys. Nobody gets to die on their own terms here. Your bones belong to Ah Bing now. By assassin number 3, that dull knife finally leveled up, transforming into a pristine steel blade. Well, it's about time. At least the rest of the executions went by much quicker and cleaner. And right after wiping out the entire squad, Ah Bing triggered his 3rd evolution. His limp completely disappeared. His bones upgraded from dirty gray to gleaming ivory, and his soul flame flared up even brighter. He leaped straight onto the inn's roof in a single bound, and started flailing his new steel sword around, like he was trying out for a martial arts blockbuster. Skeleton. Ah Bing has upgraded to Super Skeleton Servant. Skills. Advanced Bone Claw Strike. Advanced Booty Shake Dance. Pleasing the Master, Weak Soul Flame. Next evolution, Absorb 10. Same species, Soul Flames to rank up to Skeleton Warrior. That but Wiggle Dance somehow survived through 2 whole evolutions. Looks like this skill is baked into his very soul. It's definitely here to stay. I decided to set up a sparring match between Ah Bing and Big Beard to gauge his actual combat strength. Kenny absolutely wrecked him. It wasn't even close. Ah Bing's current fighting ability was pretty much at the level of an apprentice knight, just barely stronger than an average human. Great for mugging old ladies, but totally useless on an actual battlefield. To make matters worse, he was suffering from serious psychological trauma. Years of constant abuse from humans meant that whenever someone so much as threw a hostile glare at him, he'd immediately curl up into a ball and throw in the towel. This skeleton seriously needed therapy, or maybe just a bunch more bones. Honestly, probably both. I rewarded his efforts with a massive pot of pork bones, which he dug into with way more passion than he ever showed, while killing actual people. After that, we made our way over to the Mage Guild. The receptionist turned out to be an elf slave. Absolutely stunning, wearing an outfit that barely left anything to the imagination. As it turns out, mages apparently love surrounding themselves with attractive elf servants. And because this guild was established by an archmage, the entire place was practically crawling with elf slaves. It felt like walking right into a fantasy cosplay convention. Welcome, distinguished guest. What kind of magical artifact are you searching for today? Something that can enhance my physical attributes. A defense boost would be great, and an attack buff would be even better. I know the perfect item for you. Please follow me. She guided me into the private vault, where the high-grade magic items were kept, far away from the basic floor displays. Choice number 1. Beastman Armor. A magnificent suit of golden armor adorned with a lion crest that enhances your defense and attack, while permanently strengthening your physique. The downside? You gradually transform into a beastman. Your face gets super rugged. So how much is it? 5,000. 5,000 gold? I don't even have 5 grand on me. Sorry, pretty armor. Guess it's goodbye forever. Moving on to option 2. The Demon Collar is cheaper at 2,500 gold. It offers the exact same boost to attack and defense, making you as strong as a 1-star knight the entire time you wear it. The catch? It unlocks some highly specific preferences. What kind of preferences? Well, put it on and see. She strapped the collar around my neck, and instantly, a massive surge of power rushed through my entire body. My muscles were bursting with energy, and my mind became razor sharp. I felt totally invincible, but I also suddenly felt this intense urge to drop to my knees before the elf, lick her feet, and let her whip me. I tore that collar off so fast, I almost snapped the damn thing in half. Nope, absolutely not. Hell to the no. Power is great and all, but I'd really like to hold on to my self-respect. Thanks, but let's check option 3. The elf dug through a dusty back shelf and pulled out a black wooden box. Resting inside was a tiny candle stub. This is the acceleration candle. When lit, it speeds up time within a 1-meter radius around it. Paired with this knight training manual, you could reach 1-star knight rank in just 3 months instead of 3 years. And if you're naturally gifted, even faster. Exactly how much does it accelerate time? And won't that make me age faster too? Well, we don't know the precise speed. Since candles burn out with use, we can't just run tests on them like standard magic items. This one only has about 1/5 of its life left, so I'm selling it for just 3,500 gold. As for aging, just keep it lit while you train. Besides, knights naturally age much slower anyway. Right then, my system interface dropped an absolute bombshell. While it looks like a run-of-the-mill magic candle, it actually belonged to the legendary knight, Roland. Train beside its flame, and you might just unlock direct personal guidance from Roland himself. Roland, one of the legendary 24 genius knights of the Empire, the absolute madman who challenged the Empire's Flame Witch 33 times and won every single time. When everyone thought it was impossible, he claimed the title of the strongest knight, only to completely vanish at age 45, never to be seen again. And this elf shopkeeper was selling his actual candle for 3,500 gold, simply because she had zero clue what she actually had in her hands. So, my choice is turn into a furry, become a total masochist, or get trained by a legendary hero. Gee, what an agonizingly tough choice. I managed to talk the elf down to 3,000 gold for the candle, and she even threw in 2 knight training manuals, along with a lucky pocket watch as free bonuses. The watch had practically 0 mana in it. It was essentially just a cheap participation prize that the Mage Guild hands out to anyone who drops big cash in their shop. Basically the equivalent of getting a free keychain after buying a brand new car. With all our gear packed up, we finally set off toward the Red Moon territory. During the carriage ride, Aurora was visibly utterly confused. She had fully prepared herself for the typical miserable slave treatment, constant beatings, starvation, the whole tragic deal. Instead, I was pampering her with steak and fresh fish every single day. She couldn't wrap her mind around this glitch in her reality. Meanwhile, Abing was thriving in his new undead life. With a constant supply of bones, he completely forgot that he was supposed to be a terrifying skeleton monster. Bess, on the other hand, was watching our cash drain away, faster than ice melting on a hot summer day. My lord, the Edward house is no more. He'd constantly remind me every time he had to pay for something, which happened all the time. Bess, our family name might be gone, but we're still breathing. Do you know what the absolute worst tragedy in life is? What's that, sir? Dying while leaving all your fortune behind. Bess heavily disagreed with that logic. From his strictly financial perspective, being broke while still alive was a whole lot worse. The massive chest of gold he was proudly hauling a few days back had shriveled into a tiny, depressing coin pouch. He gripped it tightly, like a mother guarding her fragile newborn. However, what truly drove Bess insane was our nightly routine. Every single night, I'd kick him out of the carriage and lock myself inside. With Aurora and Abby, I'd ignite the acceleration candle, and for the next half hour to an hour, that carriage would rock violently without fail. The hired mercenaries were already gossiping among themselves. I could basically see their dirty thoughts in speech bubbles. A young baron locked in with a little girl and a skeleton, and the carriage shakes like crazy every night. Hold on, get your minds out of the gutter. I was training. That special candle accelerates time fivefold, within its 1 meter range. So, a single hour of practice inside equals 5 full hours of real intense training. Roland's legendary spirit was literally putting me through brutal combat drills. The carriage was rocking, simply because I was pulling off intense workouts in a tight space. Poor Bess tried his best to protect my reputation. The young master is a delicate scholar. He would never, but even he couldn't explain why the carriage kept shaking. Eventually, Bess started venting his frustration on my 2 latest investments. 2 slaves, 2 absolute money pits, he grumbled, glaring daggers at Aurora and Abby. Aurora is a growing kid, fine. She gets a pass for eating extra. But you, he pointed right at Abby, you're a literal skeleton. Why on earth do you need a fresh batch of bones every single day? Abby ducked his head and quickly hid his burlap sack behind his back. The bag was completely stuffed with gnawed bones. He'd been secretly hoarding. Nobody had any clue why he was saving them. Just weird skeleton stuff, I suppose. Aurora turned red and stubbornly refused to admit that she'd been devouring food like a starving trucker. An endless buffet. Too bad the proof was written all over her face. Her cheeks were getting rounder. Her complexion was glowing, and she was finally starting to look like the noble-born lady she actually was. As for me, just 1 week of candle-boosted training yielded gains that would normally take months of grueling effort. Roland's ghost wasn't just giving tips. He was a top-tier master instructor. That's the massive difference between struggling on your own and learning from a legendary master. It's basically like searching up a tutorial on how to swim versus having Michael Phelps himself literally chuck you straight into the deep end. The only issue was that the candle was melting down insanely fast, and I had serious doubts it would even stay lit. All the way until we made it to Red Moon territory. The standard overland journey was supposed to take 6 whole days, so we decided to take a shortcut right through Howes Mountain, which happens to run directly along the eastern side of the Undead Mountain Range. Now human night orders had already cleared out this zone plenty of times, and I had an escort of 20 elite mercenaries. So on paper, we were totally safe, key word being on paper. I pulled aside the carriage window curtain and took a look up at the towering Howes Mountain. Gloomy dark clouds and a creepy fog were wrapping around the jagged peaks like gray silk scarves. Young Master of Storm is coming our way. Best warned, his grayed hair trembling slightly in the wind. The first droplet of rain splashed onto my hand, ice cold, and right as I was about to tell everyone to pick up the pace, a sudden bad feeling hit every single nerve in my body. Hundreds of crows burst out from the trees, screeching wildly, creating a massive sea of black feathers rolling across the sky. Something is definitely wrong here. Candy's tone turned dead serious. Look at those crows, they've got blood-red eyes. And right then the ground began to shake violently. Candy's mount started spooking as he instantly drew his blade. Defensive positions. The knights quickly formed a tight defensive circle around our carriage. And that's when the earth split wide open, and pale skeletal hands came clawing their way out. Straight through the dirt. All right, look. I played plenty of games, and I've seen 1,000 skeleton ambushes play out on a computer screen. However, when real-life skeletons actually start digging out of the dirt, just 3 feet away from your face, with eerie green flames burning in their empty eye sockets, wearing rusted armor that still bears the crests of ancient knightly orders. Your whole scalp goes numb, and your brain goes into full panic mode. Realizing this isn't a cutscene, you can just pause It's undead from the ancient Knight orders. Someone yelled out as the very first skeletal knight leaped 10 feet straight into the air, bringing a decayed greatsword slamming down right at Candy's head. He managed to block the blow, but the sheer force rattled his whole arm. Yeah, these definitely weren't your average low-level skeletons. These guys were elite, undead, protect. The Lord Best stammered out, completely panicking, having absolutely zero useful combat skills to offer here. Turns out living decades in a cozy mansion doesn't exactly prepare a guy for a full-on zombie apocalypse. Our knights raised their shields into wall formation, as even more skeletons flooded in from every single angle. Relentless, fearless, and seemingly endless Best shoved Abbing right out of the carriage first. Go out there and fight. Abbing face-planted straight into the mud. But here is the hilarious part. The undead knights completely walked past him. Turns out since he was a skeleton too, they showed professional courtesy. Or something like that. Abbing quickly pulled his sword and started caving in skull after skull. His moves were pretty sloppy, but super accurate. The main problem was for every single skeleton he shattered, 10 more took its place than a spear. Came crashing straight through our carriage wall. Kenny sliced down the attacker in a split second. Lord Baron. Don't worry, you'll be fine, I swear. Sweet words, Kundi. However, I could easily read the room. These hired swords would stick around and fight, only as long as the odds were in their favor. The moment things truly went downhill, they'd run for the hills, contract or not. After all, gold is useless when you're dead. The basic skeletons were weaklings, below a 1-star knight's level, but the heavily armored ones packed power above 2-star knights. And there was an entire horde of them. I couldn't afford to waste any more time. Plan A was to nurse Aurora back to health for a few weeks, before attempting her awakening. But Plan A just got completely wrecked by a skeleton army. So welcome to Plan B. I pulled out the awakening stone, and held it right out to the little, white-haired girl, whose eyes were wide with total shock. Aurora, do you want to become a witch? Aurora froze up on the spot. Even if she wasn't from this continent, she knew just how ridiculously rare awakening stones were. She frantically waved her hands around in denial. No, there's no way. I don't have the talent to be a witch. What was actually running through her head was, if I waste his expensive stone and fail, he's going to snap. He'll sell me off to the worst slave trader out there, or would just finish me off himself. Every single nice-looking noble I've ever met turned into a total lunatic. The second things went sideways. A fair concern, to be honest. But it was awful timing for a trust issues episode, because right at that exact moment, the first squad of mercenaries broke their formation. Big Ears is cursed, yelled one as he whipped his horse around, shouting, "Screw this paycheck, I'm out of here," and bolted away with his entire crew in tow. Red-Nosed Deer and Scarface Mondo exchanged glances, thinking, should we get out of here too? Man, I don't get paid enough to deal with a skeleton apocalypse. In the moment that squad bailed, our entire defense line collapsed like a house of cards. Skeletons came flooding right through the openings, and casualties instantly skyrocketed. Big Beard Kundi, my highest paid and most reliable mercenary captain, grit his teeth and quickly did the math in his head. Cross the mountain and finish the mission? Probably turn around right now? Lose the pay, but definitely live. So he went with option B, retreat. Every single mercenary knight totally abandoned us, ditching their gear and pushing their horses to full sprint. 20 elite warriors who literally swore to protect me vanished into thin air in about 8 seconds flat. Best was practically blowing a fuse. You can't do this. We paid you, you treacherous mercenaries. Get your asses back here. Honestly, I saw this coming. At the end of the day, mercenaries are employees, not your family. When the job description suddenly turns into dying for some random baron, that resignation letter practically writes itself. So now it was just me, a terrified old butler, a skeleton going through an identity crisis, and one traumatized little girl, standing against an entire army of undead knights. Aurora, if you don't give this a shot, we're all going to die right here. This really isn't the time to stress about wasting a rock. But swear to me, if I fail, you won't hurt me or sell me off. You idiot, if you blow this. We're all wiped out. I won't even get the chance to hurt or sell you off, because there won't be an after. It's do or die right now. So I shoved the awakening stone right in her tiny palm. She blinked, ran the math in her head, and realized I was completely right. Hard to punish someone when you're a corpse. Meanwhile, Bing was pulling off wild maneuvers I never saw coming. Since he's a skeleton himself, the undead horde had completely ignored him at first. Just professional courtesy among the Bone Squad, I guess. He had actually been low-key slicing up his own kind, acting like a total double agent at a family reunion. But the exact moment the mercenaries retreated, his backstabbing became dead obvious. The skeletons swarmed around him instantly, and that was when Bing whipped out his secret weapon, that trusty burlap sack full of chewed bones he'd been hoarding for days on end. He rapidly pieced them together into a massive bone whip. He cracked the whip, and guys, I'm totally not making this up, a whole pack of standard skeleton grunts rushed over and literally started gnawing on it. They just clamped onto that bone whip with their teeth and started chewing like dogs with a chew toy. Is this seriously a skeleton thing? Do all skeletons just have a bone obsession? Well, actually, nope. The heavy-armored elite skeletons didn't give a damn. They just trampled right over their bone-munching comrades and made a beeline straight for our carriage. So apparently, bone addiction is strictly a low-tier skeleton problem. I guess the craving hits different when you're sitting at the bottom of the undead social ladder. Right beside me, Bess was shaking violently out of pure terror. "Be Baron, sir. Are we really going to kick the bucket here? My fortune. I haven't even gotten to blow it all yet." He was finally getting what I'd been preaching all along, that the most tragic fate in the world is dying with a loaded bank account. Welcome to my worldview, buddy. Man, it took a literal skeleton apocalypse to convert you. But hey, better late than never. I kept my gaze glued strictly onto Aurora, clutching the acceleration candle secretly behind my back. If she failed her awakening, that candle was my absolute last trump card, though I had no clue what I'd even do with it. Speed trained myself into a grand night in 30 seconds flat. Still, it was all I had left. The undead knights were literally scaling the sides of our carriage, when suddenly it happened. The awakening stone detonated with rainbow brilliance. 5 distinct colors swirled together before 4 faded away, leaving behind pure gold. A brilliant, sunset-hued radiance burst from the stone, flooding every single inch of the carriage. Aurora's eyes flashed into solid gold, and raw power surged wildly into her body. A glowing sigil materialized right on her forehead, and then she began to visibly grow. Her tiny frame stretched out, her limbs lengthened, and her features refined. In roughly 10 short seconds, that dirt-smudged little goblin kid, who couldn't even reach a doorknob, transformed into an insanely gorgeous teenage girl. Her already cute face leveled up to full-on magazine cover model status. Eyes gleaming like starlight, an elegant nose, lips that poets would write terrible romance sonnets about, and certain prominent physical upgrades. Transformed from flat terrain to towering mountain ranges, at a speed that completely defied physics. That long gothic dress of hers, which was literally trailing on the ground a second ago, had suddenly turned into a super short skirt. I literally just witnessed a live magical girl transformation, right in front of my eyes, complete with censorship fog. And honestly, Bess was even more stunned than I was. That blinding golden flash almost blinded his already failing elderly eyes. A massive beam of golden light blasted right out of the carriage, and that first skeletal knight that had impaled its way through the wooden wall instantly disintegrated, turning straight into fine powder. Aurora stepped outside, her snow-white hair floating effortlessly in the air, and her eyes were literally burning with golden fire. She looked straight up like a divine goddess who had accidentally wandered into a horror movie and was extremely annoyed about it. Is that? Bess's jaw was practically scraping the floor. A witch awakening. No time for your Q&A session, old man. We got more undead swarming in. Aurora threw up her hand, and a massive pillar of golden light shot straight into the heavens. Literally everything it touched, every single skeleton, and every undead knight, was instantly reduced to ash. It was like watching someone hit the delete button on an entire army, but suddenly her body began to sway. That immense power was way too overwhelming for her newly awakened body. I managed to catch her right from behind, and my cheat system UI immediately popped up in front of me. Aurora has successfully completed her first awakening, unlocking beginner-level light witch abilities. Basic light manipulation, including light orbs, defensive light shields, and a purification beam. Minor healing capabilities, limited to superficial wounds, plus light perception, allowing her to detect living entities within a 50-meter radius. Hey, you alright? Well, of course I'm okay. I've never felt better in my life. I am amazing. I feel incredible. She was absolutely over the moon. This girl, who had been dreaming about getting taller her entire life, literally shot up from under a meter to 166 centimeters in a mere 10 seconds, so her brain was running on pure rush. That entire undead army was completely wiped off the face of the earth by that single holy blast. And it wasn't even because those skeleton knights were weak. They were literally wiping the floor with the mercenaries just minutes ago. It's just that light magic is an absolute hard counter, and a total cheat code against the undead. Blasting pure divine light at skeletons is basically like pouring hot water onto paper sheets. They literally never stood a chance. Man, if Big Beard Connie ever found out we actually survived this, he'd probably be kicking himself repeatedly right about now, because he didn't just lose his payout for the job. Since he breached our contract and his client, me, is still very much alive, he actually owes me a massive breach penalty. And the Mercenary Guild holds every single payment in escrow until the contract is officially marked complete. So Connie literally ditching us meant running straight into massive debt. Talk about sweet, sweet karma. Meanwhile, Ah Bing, who had been busy farm killing 10 of his fellow skeletons and upgrading his class from a basic skeleton servant to a bone warrior, caught one glance of that blinding purification light and instantly dug himself deep into the dirt, like a totally panicked mole, which, honestly, smart move on his part. The blast didn't hit him directly, but his bones were literally shaking violently for a solid minute straight. And by the time he finally pulled himself back out, every single bone in his body was completely loose and rattling around, looking like a poorly put-together piece of IKEA furniture. I was right on the verge of soothing my poor, deeply traumatized future undead sovereign, when a stray arrow flew out of nowhere and struck Ah Bing square in the rear. Seriously, again with the butt? This guy's backside is apparently a literal magnet for sharp projectiles. Ah Bing grabbed his backside with the most betrayed expression a bare, featureless skull could possibly manage, and slowly spun around. Then a whole volley of arrows rained down right at us. I grimaced in annoyance. More enemies? Seriously? Can I not catch a break for just 5 minutes? Skeleton. Poor Ah Bing got transformed into a human pincushion before I could even yell. Hold on. Arrows were poking out of every single bone, making him look like a hedgehog, dressed up as a budget Halloween prop. The good news? Ah Bing had already upgraded to a bone warrior, meaning those arrows didn't actually deal any real damage. He just stood there, completely bewildered and covered in spikes. Suddenly, a unit of armored infantry came charging out of the forest, followed by high-ranking knights riding massive, noble steeds. Their gear bore a distinct four-leaf clover emblem, the Order of the Four-Leaf Territory Knights, considering the undead mountains fell right within their borders. Bumping into them here actually made total sense. Leading the charge was their captain, a guy whose face was literally shaped like a shoehorn, complete with a brown beard neatly tied into a bow tie at the bottom. Like, who even does that? And he was glaring down his nose at us, like we were something nasty he just stepped on. His eyes scanned over me first, scrawny, sunburnt. Not impressive at all. Then they shifted to Best, who was shivering, equally unimpressive. But then, his gaze landed right on Aurora. His Adam's apple twitched as he gulped audibly. Oh, real slick, buddy. Yeah, I caught that. Keep your eyes up here, shoehorn face. To his credit, he instantly dropped his high and mighty act, dismounted his horse, and strutted right over. Not toward me, the actual Baron, mind you, but directly to Aurora. Fair lady, I do hope you weren't overly startled. Aurora quickly ducked behind me like I was a meat shield, which, given my current scrawny build, was pretty much like seeking cover behind a streetlight. Hey, at least I'm tall, right? Best quickly stepped in, pulling out his finest formal butler voice. Allow me to introduce my master, Baron Edward. We're currently en route to the Red Moon territory. We were just ambushed by undead knights, and our mercenary guards completely abandoned us and fled. Would you mind escorting us? It's only 1 day's journey left, and we will compensate you well. The soldiers burst into laughter, before Best could even finish a sentence. Red Moon territory? Someone actually got banished to that place? We wouldn't set foot in that hellhole, even if you paid us a fortune. It's not just overrun by werewolves anymore. Now the whole area is crawling with undead monsters too. Oh, fantastic. My new domain just got a nice little upgrade. Werewolves mixed with zombies. It's like a nightmarish combo deal. Shoehorn Face cleared his throat to silence his squad, then offer me a respectful bow. My Lord Baron, my apologies, but we aren't permitted to step outside Four-Leaf Land without direct orders from our lord. He had clearly already pieced together who I was. A dark-haired guy headed straight for the Red Moon territory. Basically the black sheep orphan of the Edward family. I was pretty much a walking, breathing biohazard that no one dared to touch. Then he barked orders to his soldiers. Grab that pile of bones, we're pulling out. I immediately stepped up and declared, that skeleton belongs to me. He's got official papers, so keep your hands off him. Best backed me up without missing a beat. Exactly, he's bound by a legally binding slave contract. You've got no right here, Best added, feeling extra bold. Now we had a full-fledged baron and a newly awakened witch on our side. So what were 50 random knights going to do to us? Meanwhile, Abing tried to cower behind me, just like Aurora did. Except the guy was a whole 6 feet tall, riddled with arrows, and looking like a literal walking cactus. Yeah, stealth was definitely not his strong suit. Old Shoehorn Face just shrugged it off and said, fine. Keep your slave, but you better watch your back. Skeletons near the undead mountains have a habit of going feral. I immediately changed the subject. Haas Mountain is part of the Four-Leaf Territory's outer border, and you guys are supposed to clear out the undead regularly. So how come we just got jumped by a whole freaking legion of undead knights? He scratched his nasty beard and sighed. Just pure bad luck, honestly. A massive mana surge hit from the undead mountains recently. It had been completely quiet for over 50 years, so everyone assumed the place was completely dormant. Turns out, it was very much alive and kicking. That surge drove monster hordes all over Haas Mountain, flooding right into Four-Leaf Territory, and especially straight into Red Moon Territory. Right then, my cheat skill went off like a Christmas tree. This dude poses as a run-of-the-mill knight captain, but he's actually Simon, a complete pathologically compulsive liar. Turns out, Four-Leaf Territory is deep in the mud, with this whole magic surge situation. Most of those monsters wreaking havoc in Red Moon Territory were purposely funneled right over by these guys. Oh, you massive piece of garbage. They didn't just accidentally let those beasts wander into my domain. They basically herded them there like cattle, except these cattle are flesh-eating undead monstrosities. A small part of me got the dirty logic behind it. If your land is overrun with a monster infestation, dumping them onto your neighbor is way easier than taking them down yourself, especially when that neighbor's land is a desolate wasteland that nobody gives a damn about. Too bad I was the new lord of that wasteland now, and I cared a whole damn lot. Good neighbors bring over welcome pies, but these scumbags brought me literal armies of the undead. I hopped right back into the carriage, whipped out my official documents, and came back swinging for blood. This folder contains my official appointment papers, along with the official records of Red Moon Territory. The logs clearly state that my land only deals with werewolves, with absolutely zero mention of undead hordes. I've got every reason to believe that Four-Leaf Territory intentionally drove these abominations right onto my land. Take me to your lord right now. I demand a proper explanation as to why a region your men are responsible for managing is spilling deadly monsters straight into my domain. Shoehorn-faced Simon's jaw literally dropped in shock. He just stood there gawking at me. This skinny kid, a tanned kid hauling a porcupine skeleton, a trembling old man, and a gorgeous girl. And his brain was straight up failing to comprehend the sheer nerve. Who gave this orphan the audacity? He hasn't even stepped in his role yet, and he's picking fights with one of the most powerful domains in the region. We got 50 knights backing us, while he's rocking whatever that is. I could literally see the gears grinding behind his shoehorn-shaped face. He was calculating, if I waste enough of his time, he'll blow right past his official deadline. The law of the Empire states, unconfirmed lords automatically surrender their title. He'll be completely ruined without me lifting a single finger. That arrogant grin creeping across his face gave away his whole plan, naturally. Baron Edward, if you wish to see our lord, kindly follow me. He genuinely believed he was walking me into a trap. Adorable. Baron, sir, we are severely running out of time. Is this side quest really necessary? Bess was practically sweating bullets. Terrified I'd miss my appointment cutoff, miss the deadline, kiss the title goodbye, lose my head, and honestly probably lose his too. Chill out. Bess, Aurora just soloed an entire legion of skeletons. She needs to eat and recharge. We're going. I hopped right into our battle-scarred carriage, which now featured a lovely new sunroof, courtesy of a skeleton spear thrust. Before Aurora and Abing squeezed in right behind me, Bess let out the deep sigh of a man, watching his pension fund wither away second by second, and trotted off to haggle with Shoehorn Simon for a few fresh rides, seeing as our original horses got wiped out by that skeleton horde. R.I.P. Brava states, you deserved way better than getting ambushed by the undead on a random Tuesday. Simon oh so generously provided 2 bargain bin black horses, generously meaning the absolute worst nags in his stable that could barely manage a limp. The moment Aurora settled into the carriage and relaxed, her frame immediately compressed. The tall, stunning which mommy completely vanished, and the tiny, dirt-smudged gremlin returned like Cinderella hitting midnight. Only instead of dropping a glass slipper, she dropped 2 feet of height and a whole lot of plot. My magic ran out, she pouted, glaring down at her tiny hands, with pure disappointment. She had gotten a quick taste of the tall life, and she was not thrilled about going back to staring straight up everyone's nose. It's not that your magic ran out. You're just running on empty. Get some food in you, and you'll be able to shape-shift right back. Her eyes instantly gleamed, like I had just handed her an all-you-can-eat VIP pass, and she caught herself, quickly averted her gaze, twiddling her fingers all nervously, and launched into the most hilarious, thunderous speech I have ever witnessed in my life. Just because you handed over the awakening stone and transformed me. Turning into a witch doesn't mean I owe you anything, and there's no way I'd ever utter something like, "Thank you, master. You're amazing. I'll serve you forever. Give it up. I'm never letting anyone make me a slave. You're not a slave anymore. Starting right now, you're a recognized citizen of the Red Moon territory." She spun around so fast, she practically gave herself whiplash. You're actually setting me free? I never claimed you had to be my slave. Though, if you chose to become the guardian witch of Red Moon territory, I'd be thrilled. You see, I'd spent the past few days analyzing Aurora's personality. She's a girl wrapped in mystery, but pretty straightforward once you figure her out. Proud yet terrified, rebellious yet lonely. Definitely noble-born, but likely an illegitimate kid, which explains why she's petrified of people and deals with mild social anxiety. Try to bind her with a slave contract? Horrible move. The second she got powerful enough, she'd rip my face right off. Freedom is the only leash that actually keeps someone loyal. Aurora's eyes turned red as she turned her back to me, her shoulders trembling. What's wrong? I asked, patting her shoulder. She aggressively wiped her tears and bit her lip. I'm not crying, I'm not moved, and I am definitely not saying, "Thank you, my lord. I'll stay loyal to you forever." So don't even dream about it. Girl, you literally just recited the exact line. You insisted you wouldn't say. Word for word, quotation marks and all. I decided to keep my mouth shut. Pure self-preservation instinct at work. She whirled back around, eyes still puffy, and puffed out her chest. Red Moon territory is crawling with werewolves. Sane people wouldn't dare step foot in there. Only a lunatic like me would be crazy enough to protect it. I nodded along enthusiastically. 100%. You couldn't be more right. Are you just playing along with me? No way. Absolutely not. She was my ultimate trump card. Without her, I probably wouldn't even survive my first day in the territory. Play along? Man, I'd build her a statue if she asked for one. Aurora smirked, flashing a pair of cute little fangs, and placed her hands on her hips. All right then, since I'm the guardian witch now, Red Moon territory is officially under my protection. I got your back. Man, power really inflates people's egos. Just 5 minutes ago, she was a trembling, nobody hiding behind me, and now, she's declaring herself the supreme protector of an entire domain. Weech mum. The Baron is actually the ruler here. Bess mumbled timidly from the corner. He suddenly remembered calling her a bottomless pit earlier, and began to sweat. Aurora completely ignored him. Bess lived to see another day, and we finalized the witch contract. Our palms locked together, and her glowing crest began searing straight from her hand, onto the back of mine. It felt as if a red-hot iron had been slapped against my skin. For a split second, before fading into this insane, deep soul-level resonance. For one fleeting moment, we could feel everything about each other, completely exposed, with zero secrets left hidden. Aurora instantly snatched her hand back, blushing like a strawberry. Well, that was definitely weird. She agreed, though she'd rather die than admit how wild it actually felt out loud. She slunk off into Abing's corner of the carriage, planked herself down, and stared intently at his bone collection. Abing immediately pulled his precious bones close, giving her the ultimate side-eye. She was a light witch, his apex predator, and she was literally eyeballing his favorite snacks. I don't even want her nasty, chewed-up bones, she muttered, visibly swallowing her drool. That's when I whipped out her old slave contract and shredded it to pieces. Now that the official witch contract was forged, this piece of paper was totally worthless. Plus, let's be honest, it looked dramatically epic. A solid 10 out of 10 for theatrical flair. Eventually, our carriage pulled right into Four-Leaf Town, and peering out the window, I caught sight of a proper medieval city. Steep pointed roofs, glowing sun lamps hung at every entrance, garlic braided all over the place. and warding stones lining the windowsills. Yeah, these townsfolk took their anti-monster defenses pretty seriously. Shuchin Simon trotted his horse right up to the carriage window. "It's getting late, so grab an inn and get some sleep," he said. "I'll go inform the lord of your arrival, and he'll set up a meeting whenever he feels like it." Rough translation: "I'm going to run out the clock until your deadline expires. And you drop dead." I gestured for him to come closer. He leaned in, looking totally suspicious. "Simon," I said, "I happen to have a very long fuse. But my contracted witch here doesn't have half my patience." His face went through about 6 stages of grief in under 2 seconds. "A contracted witch? This broke, penniless orphan has a contracted witch? The fallen house that got wiped out for treason somehow managed to recruit one of the rarest, most dangerously overpowered beings on the entire continent." His initial reaction was to scoff. His ridiculous, shoe-shaped chin literally twitched into a smug grin. "Oh yeah? And which one would be your powerful witch? The cute white-haired girl you were drooling over earlier?" I watched the rusty gears turning in his head. Gorgeous girl. Snow-white hair, crimson eyes, found in the middle of the dangerous Hose Mountains, without a single guard or scratch on them, right after an undead night raid that should have wiped out the entire group. All because of which completely vaporized the threat. Witches could literally level whole cities in an instant. Simon's smug little smirk vanished faster than spit on a hot skillet. "Actually, now that I really give it some thought," he stammered, "our Lord is incredibly welcoming. If he knew Lord Edward was gracing us with a visit, he'd insist on rolling out the red carpet immediately. Please, right this way." That was hands down the fastest attitude flip in human history. From full disrespect to maximum VIP service in 3 seconds flat. Cut to the 4-leaf territory, right inside the Lord's estate. The guy calling the shots here was Royce Brew, a golden-haired, blue-eyed lord. This absurdly huge, middle-aged dude was sitting on a high and mighty throne, staring down at us, like we were circus crew that showed up without an invitation. I watched his eyes scan our squad. A single sunburnt teen, an ancient butler, who looked like a stiff breeze would take him out. One tiny white-haired girl, and a skeleton riddled with arrow holes. He gave Shoehorn Simon a look that practically screamed, "Why on earth did you bring this garbage into my mansion?" Honestly, Simon was just as lost. The last time he saw us, Aurora was a 6-foot knockout goddess, radiating pure golden destruction. Now, she was right back to being a 4-foot-something kid, who couldn't even reach the top shelf. He kept glancing around the room, expecting the smoking hot, which to be hiding behind a curtain or something. "Maybe she has a sister, my lord. This is Baron Edward, the new ruler of Red Moon territory." Then Simon leaned over and dropped the real bombshell. "He has a contracted witch." Royce was right in the middle of mentally drafting his "get the hell out of my house" speech, when those 3 words slammed into him like a freight train. His whole attitude flipped a total 180 instantly. His piggy little eyes scanned our party, and locked right onto the only female option, Aurora. White hair, crimson eyes, regal stance, icy expression. Yeah, she definitely fit the bill. What Royce didn't realize was that Aurora's cold, noble vibe was literally just massive social anxiety, hiding under a fancy coat. She grew up as an illegitimate noble kid, constantly bullied and cast aside, so she learned to put on an emotionless poker face, just to keep people from getting close enough to make her cry over the smallest bit of kindness. That whole Ice Queen persona was just her defense mechanism. But man, did it look convincing. My cheat skill kicked in the second I set eyes on Royce. Royce Brew seems like an average lord, but his ambitions far exceed his actual position. He has his sights set on the Silverstone mines, in the Undead Mountains. That recent mana surge? Yep, totally his doing. Well. So this fat tub of lard was the one who triggered the monster outbreak that nearly killed me. And the Silverstone mines? That material is basically Magic World rebar. Tougher than anything, perfect for constructing walls, weapons, and defenses. And that mine just so happened to sit right on the border between 4-leaf territory and Red Moon territory. Oh, that mine was definitely mine now. My dirt-poor, werewolf-infested, plague-ridden domain desperately needed an industry. And Royce had basically just pointed out where the gold, Silverstone, was buried. I also caught him ogling Aurora with greedy eyes. This guy was planning to steal my witch. He was already plotting, and right on cue, his massive but squeezed out of that lavish throne, and he waddled over with the fake grin of a shady car salesman. "Baron Edward, welcome to 4-leaf territory, and this must be your contracted witch." Simon cut in right away. No, my lord, his contracted, which is a completely different person. a remarkably stunning woman. The two of them leaned in like a pair of schoolgirls, swapping secrets. While I couldn't make out every word, I managed to catch the key details. Royce instructed Simon to locate my witch and keep her stuck here, by whatever means necessary. Oh, so you want to steal her? Stealing a witch from a guy with nothing left to lose. Pretty predictable move, Tubby. I'd already figured out his scheme. Delay me with endless celebrations. So I missed my official deadline. And once that cutoff passes, Imperial law dictates I forfeit my title and face execution. At that point, my masterless, which becomes fair game. Clever trick, Royce. Really clever, except for the tiny detail that I intend to devour all your food first. To honor our esteemed guest, we must throw a grand feast. Royce clapped his hands, shouting, "Prepare the banquet." I flashed a warm smile. How could I possibly turn down such immense hospitality? Step 1. Feed Aurora until she regains enough strength to transform. The estate's servants escorted us to the washrooms, scrubbed us clean, and dressed us in lavish garments. Then the feast began, with a massive table completely loaded. Roasted goose glistening in rich fat and spices. Enormous lobster claws displayed like works of art. And heaps of fruit so plump they looked on the verge of bursting. This was the kind of spread I hadn't seen since. Well, actually never. At least not in this lifetime. No wonder Royce was built like a beach ball. If I stuffed my face like this daily, I'd be taking up 2 seats myself. Royce stood up, raising his wine glass high. A toast to our honored guest, Baron Edward. May your stay in the 4-leaf territory prove truly unforgettable. Oh, I'm sure you'd love for it to be permanent. I returned the toast with a smirk. The moment he downed his wine, Royce gave a signal, and a troupe of dancers glided into the room, wearing outfits made out of maybe 3 threads of silk. They twirled and swayed to the melody. So that was his game plan: wine, women, and nonstop entertainment. Until I completely forgot about claiming my domain. The classic distract him with luxury trick. I leaned over to Aurora and whispered, "Eat up. Eat as much as you can. Don't hold back at all. Our generous host, Lord Royce, would feel insulted if you showed any restraint." Aurora glanced at the massive pile of food, then at Royce's colossal gut, before raising her chin proudly. Food of this quality is hardly worth discarding. My refined composure. She then proceeded to toss that refined composure right out the window. In record time, she was shoving food in her mouth with both hands. Lobster in the left, a goose leg in the right, and a bread roll somehow balanced on her knee. Cheeks puffed out like a hamster stocking up for the winter. Man, this tastes amazing. Oh yeah, this one's great too, hom. Honestly, your grace and class never fail to shine. Meanwhile, Ah Bing had a completely different mission in mind. He was methodically tearing every single shred of meat off the bone. And the funny thing is, he couldn't care less about eating the actual meat. He was literally stashing those scraped-clean bones into a sack to save for later. Yep, he was straight-up bagging leftovers at a high-society noble banquet. Best looked like he wanted to dig a hole right under the table and just die of pure shame. I told him, "Best chill out, man. Our extremely generous host Lord Royce put on this massive feast for us because he adores us so much. He's not going to lose sleep over a few missing bones. So just dig in, drink up, and live it up a little." So I grabbed one of the gorgeous, exotic dancers and shoved her right into Bess's lap. The lady flashed him a seductive grin while filling his goblet. "Would my lord like another drink?" Bess turned bright red, looking like a total tomato, stuttering out, "Oh no, I really shouldn't." Even though his lips were saying no, his fingers were already tightly wrapped around that wine cup. Just like that, his ex-wife became nothing more than a fading memory, dissolving away right into the sparkling champagne bubbles. He caught himself thinking, man, being single is fantastic. Actually, staying single for the rest of my life sounds even better. Meanwhile, off to the side, Royce was watching us stuff our faces, smirking under his breath. "Simon, did you manage to track down that witch?" "We scoured the entire domain, sir, and found zero trace of her. She might not have even entered the city yet. Or perhaps she's still lurking somewhere on MT Hose. Then why on earth are you just standing around here? Get out there and find her." Royce literally planted a boot right into Simon's rear end, giving him a straight-up kick to the butt. "Do you have any idea how much fortune I dump into hiring mages every single year? Bring me that witch right now." Simon scurried off, rubbing his sore behind. Unsurprisingly, it's the exact same spot where Ah Bing keeps getting impaled. There's definitely something cursed about this realm. It seems to have a personal vendetta against butt cheeks. I glanced over at Aurora, whose stomach was inflated like a basketball. "I'm totally stuffed, master." Can I try shape-shifting right now? I immediately cut her off. Hold on, not just yet. I turned my gaze toward Royce with a sly grin. We had gobbled down his lavish feast, drained all his fine wine, and let his seductive dancers pamper our butler. Aurora was completely topped off with energy, meaning it was time to tear off the friendly act. I slowly set my goblet down and let that fake smile melt right off my face, just like butter slipping across a sizzling pan. Lord Royce, here's a funny thought. The moment I stepped foot into your territory, every single person was gossiping about how you successfully drove every single undead threat straight out of the undead mountains and directly onto Red Moon lands. Now, that mountain range falls squarely under your watch, doesn't it? So, shoving your own hot trash right into my front yard, don't you think that's a pretty disrespectful move? Royce froze up for a brief second, but his 2 decades of dirty political instincts immediately kicked in, and he went straight into full-blown gaslighting mode. My dear Baron, you must have fallen for baseless peasant rumors. You know how those commoners love to talk out of their asses. We govern the undead mountains with utmost care and responsibility. What happened was simply an unforeseen anomaly in Mana, a complete freak natural disaster that caused monsters to rampage everywhere. Why, even our very own local villages suffered massive damage. And if a larger horde spilled over into Red Moon lands, well, that's simply because Red Moon doesn't have any knights to hold the line. Our valiant 4-leaf knights terrified those beasts so badly that they all fled straight into your domain. Honestly, it's a total testament to our military power. Gotta admit, that was a pretty solid pitch. Even the guy next to him was nodding along like, yeah, that tracks. Too bad for him, I actually have functional eyes. If your knights really routed those monsters, then how come I didn't spot a single destroyed village or ruined road on my way here? And why does practically every house have solar lamps, garlic wreaths, and demon-repelling stones already hanging right on their front doors? Unless you knew the stampede was coming in advance. Nobody prepares like that. Royce's eyes narrowed. He definitely didn't expect me to clock the local interior decorating choices. Pure coincidencia. Our citizens worship the sun god, so the church hands out those sun lamps. The garlic is just an old local custom, and those stones are just ordinary decorative rocks. Ordinary rocks, huh? Funny, because I snatched one up on my way in. I held up the demon-repelling stone for everyone to see. If this is really just a plain old rock, chucking it at my skeleton minion shouldn't do anything to him at all. But if it's a genuine demon-repelling stone, Ebane caught wind of what I was about to do with it, and instantly bolted across the room, trying to hide among the dancing girls. The dancers scattered instantly like a flock of pigeons, leaving him standing there all alone and totally exposed. I motioned for him to come over, and he slowly shuffled forward, like a man, well, a skeleton, walking straight to the gallows. I tossed the stone right at his skull. Crack! It left a dent in his head, like a ping-pong ball slamming into a soda can. Ebane shrieked out in pain. See? A real demon-repelling stone. Ebane hit me with the absolute most betrayed look a faceless skull could possibly pull off. Those blank, hollow eye sockets were practically dripping with pure resentment. I slyly flashed him a thumbs up behind my back. Great work, Ebane. You're a real hero. He was not feeling comforted in the slightest. At least, not until I tossed him a massive bone. And suddenly, that blunt force trauma was water under the bridge. Seeing that his lies had been totally blown wide open, Royce dropped the charade completely. What is it you actually want, Baron Edward? It's simple. I'm here to solve your problems. Solve them? What are you talking about? Look, everyone used to assume the undead mountains were just a dormant volcano. No eruptions, zero threat. But now we know it's active. And it could blow its top again at any given second. You've got hundreds of thousands of civilians living right here in 4-leaf territory, settled right beside a ticking monster time bomb that has to be keeping you up at night. Meanwhile, Red Moon territory is already a desolate ruin. There's hardly anyone living there anyway, so if monsters swarm in, it just goes from a complete dump to a slightly worse dump. So here's my deal. We'll take the brunt of the hit for you. We'll act as your meat shield, no matter what it takes, even if we lose our very last subject. Royce narrowed his eyes at me, clearly thinking this sounded way too good to be true. So you're telling me I can just herd all these monsters straight into Red Moon territory? Spot on, I replied, raising my wine glass further. Though we need a hand over the undead mountains. To Red Moon's official jurisdiction. We handle the threat at the source, and you sleep like a baby. Best practically shot out of his seat. My lord. There's no way we can take over the undead mountains. Red Moon territory is already a complete death trap. Come on, Bess. Lord Royce has been insanely generous tonight. The absolute least we can do is help lighten his load. Now shut up and drink your wine. Bess collapsed back into his chair, drowning his panic in booze. Royce glanced between me and Bess, probably assuming we were pulling a rehearsed good cop, bad cop routine, which, hilarious enough, we totally weren't. Bess was legitimately losing his mind. Look, the undead mountains are a nightmare, but we can't just pass off our own mess to Red Moon territory. That's strictly our burden to bear. Edward, my boy, I genuinely appreciate your kindness, but really... Translation. You'll get my Silverstone mines over my dead body. You truly stand by that. 100%. Four-leaf territory cleans up after itself. So by that logic, the monsters that already breached into Red Moon territory are still Four-Leaf's problem, right? Royce's expression instantly froze. He just realized he had walked right in my trap. Here's the deal, Royce. Old pal, if I actually own the undead mountains, those rogue monsters would be my financial nightmare. But since you just insisted they belong to you, every single one of them is your responsibility. And according to Imperial law, Article 545, the Monster Bounty Clause, anyone who exterminates beasts can claim full bounties from the land's rightful owner. So we'll gladly wipe out the monsters in Red Moon territory, and you just pay us the standard hunting fee. Sound fair? Honestly, I had zero intention of taking the mountain today. That official document folder I flashed at Simon earlier, stuffed with completely blank paper. I didn't have a single piece of real intel on Red Moon. Trying to bully a greedy fox like Royce in a handing over land was never going to work. People like him don't just hand over valuable land out of kindness. Force him to pay me to kill his own monsters? That was just step one. Eventually, when maintaining that mountain bleeds him dry and becomes too dangerous to hold, he'll literally beg me to take it off his hands. Just watch. The moment Bess heard pay us, his eyes literally turned into dollar signs. Aurora, on the other hand, couldn't care less about cash. She was sitting there with a food baby, bigger than a basketball, with only one thought in her head. When is he letting me transform? I want to be tall again. Let me be tall. Royce's face completely darkened. Hold on. They hunt monsters that invaded their own land, and somehow charge me for the bill. Those beasts are already inside Red Moon. They're your problem now. Are you seriously trying to scam money out of my pockets? And just like that, the gracious host act completely shattered. He gave a quick snap of his fingers, and armed guards rushed into the hall from every door. They drew their weapons in unison, the cold ring of steel reverberating through the room. A bit dramatic, honestly, but I'll give him points for timing. Royce adjusted the jeweled rings on his fingers, flashed a smug, golden-toothed grin, and said, Edward, my boy, it's not that I don't appreciate the offer. We just don't have the budget for this right now. Why don't you take some time to reconsider? Maybe we can renegotiate later. Basically, what he's really saying is, I have 50 men, and you've got a single broken skeleton. Are you sure you want to stand your ground? I gave Aurora a quick look, and 5 seconds later, I was standing behind a 6-foot-tall divine power trip. Her long white hair drifted in an invisible wind, blinding golden light streaming from her eyes, and the air around her crackled with volatile, godlike energy. I grinned back at Royce from behind, my fully charged, well-fed, and ready to brawl guardian witch. Royce, my good friend, it's not like I don't understand Four-Leaf's financial situation. It's just that Red Moon territory really insists on helping. Why don't you think it over? Maybe we can chat about it right now. Royce's jaw practically hit the floor. The witch, the exact same one he had Simon chasing all over the region, was literally standing right in front of him. That tiny, white-haired snack-devouring kid. That little girl? She was the legendary witch. After cursing Simon to hell and back, in his head, he immediately shifted to Plan B. Poach the witch. He looked right past me, completely ignoring my existence, and approached Aurora directly. Lady Witch, why waste your time tied to a penniless baron? He can't offer you resources. He can't pay you what you're worth, and he definitely can't help you advance. Stay here in Four-Leaf territory. I'll give you whatever you desire. Wealth, power, prestige, and as many awakening stones as your heart desires. The guy wasn't even subtle about it. He was straight up poaching my ultimate weapon right in front of my face, while I was literally standing right there. To be fair, though, he wasn't wrong. Promoting from a novice witch to an intermediate one requires a second awakening, and those stones cost 100 times more than the first. In my current state, I couldn't afford that in a million years. Bess was trembling so violently. He looked like he was about to collapse. If Aurora betrayed us now, we were totally done for, plain and simple. Royce would throw us into a cell until the deadline passed, and then execute us completely legally. Bing was already frantically stuffing spare bones back into his bag. Smart skeleton. Always getting ready to run for his life. Aurora put on her ice-cold expression and said, Red Moon territory is a place where nobody would ever willingly set foot. Royce's eyes lit up, and he started rubbing his hands together in glee. She's taking the bait. She's totally switching sides. Meanwhile, Bess's blood pressure shot through the roof. I seriously thought his head was about to explode. Aurora kept going, saying, if I don't go, the Red Moon territory will never get a guardian witch, so I can't just abandon them. I turned down your offer. It doesn't matter how much cash, resources, or backing you try to throw my way. I'm not staying. Yes. Hell yeah, exactly. Wait, hold on, what? Royce literally lagged like a dial-up modem. It took his brain 5 whole seconds to register that. He just got rejected. Like, why? How? Red Moon territory versus 4-leaf territory. With straight-up hell versus paradise. What kind of witch chooses the dumpster fire? Abe burst into tears of gratitude while keeping up his bone-packing hustle. I hit Royce with a raised eyebrow and my best. That's right, fat man smirk. I decline, Aurora repeated, just to twist the knife in deeper. Royce just took 10,000 points of emotional damage. If these terms aren't good enough, we can negotiate whatever you want. I decline. The guy looked like he was about to suffer a full-on heart attack. In his entire talent scouting career, he'd never taken such an embarrassing loss. He turned to me with the fake-ass smile ever plastered on a human face. I was merely testing your witch's loyalty. Congrats on having such a devoted, contracted witch. Oh, so I should be thanking you now? Then he waved off the guards with a heavy sigh of defeat. Pretty hard to intimidate someone when they're walking. Nuke just publicly pledged total, undying loyalty. Aurora actually looked disappointed as the guards pulled back. She was totally hoping to use them as target practice. 30 minutes later, we had an official signed deal. The Undead Mountains Monster Extermination Co-op Agreement. Royce agreed to let Red Moon territory hunt the monsters and claim bounties straight out of 4-leaf's budget. Plus, he tossed in an armed guard to escort us the rest of the way. He figured doing me a small favor was way safer than picking a fight with a lord who owns a witch. Besides, in Royce's mind, I'd be way too busy just trying not to die in Red Moon territory to actually cash in on any bounties. So this old contract would probably end up as nothing more than a useless piece of paper. Oh, you naive little man, Royce. You have absolutely no clue. I also dropped by the Wilmore mercenary guilds for Leaf Branch location and snagged 3,000 gold coins in breach of contract fees, thanks to Big Beard Candy breaking his deal. That's right, Candy. You dish your payout. And now you owe me cold hard cash. Karma really is a thing of beauty. I immediately blew almost all of it on food, medicine, seeds, equipment, UV lamps, and demon-repelling ward stones, turning pure gold straight into survival gear. I walked out with a grand total of just 200 gold left in my pocket. Honestly, where I was headed, there probably wouldn't be anything worth buying anyway. Flanked by the 4-leaf night escort, we finally hit Red Moon territory by the very next day, and holy crap. This place made every horror story I'd ever heard sound like a cozy vacation resort. A thick gray mist constantly choked the sky, blocking out any hope of sunlight, while at night, a crimson moon hung overhead like a massive, ominous eyeball, bathing the entire landscape in an eerie red glow. They didn't name it the Red Moon territory for dramatic flair. It was literally because that moon looked like it was bleeding into the night sky. The local villages were total ghost towns, caved-in roofs, shattered walls, and totally overrun by wild vines and moss. Bleached bones were littered across the debris, remnants of former villagers who couldn't escape in time. Wolves were howling from every direction, and the voices of undead whispered through the fog. This wasn't just a domain, it was a straight-up horror movie set. Honestly, no wonder every noble in the Empire treated this region like a biohazard. Even the most profit-obsessed merchants wouldn't come near it. The only people desperate enough to end up here were hopeless refugees and wanted fugitives, who literally had nowhere left to hide. The 4-leaf knights tossed us out right at the border, and bailed so fast you'd think they could teleport. They weren't planning on wasting a single second in this cursed nightmare fuel. Bess held onto his sun lamp, like it was the final light source left on the planet. Lord Baron, we've officially made it. Yep, let's find some cover and crash for the night. The moon was already high, and hearing those wolf howls, Bess instinctively shuffled right up close to Aurora. That holy light was the only thing giving him even a fraction of safety. I pointed over toward a nearby structure that looked slightly less collapsed than the rest of the dump. That spot doesn't look half bad. Clean it up a bit, and we can crash there. I was 100% sure that no previous lord had ever actually stepped foot here. When the Empire told me I had to build this territory from scratch, they were definitely not kidding around. Bess and Abing started carrying our gear into the rundown shanty. I was just about to head inside myself when both of them bolted back out, like their pants were literally on fire. Run for your life. Lord Baron. Old. Bess unlocked a sprint speed I didn't think his ancient joints were capable of. Dude was taking 3 steps in 2 strides, launching himself out of that doorway, like a human cannonball powered purely by panic and arthritis. Meanwhile, Abing's prized sack of bones got caught on a snag behind him and completely ripped open. Skeletons went flying everywhere like the creepiest piñata ever made. He let out this pathetic whimpering sound, which, by the way, was the first time I'd ever heard the guy make a single noise. This whole time, I legit thought he was mute, but turns out he just needed someone to wreck his bone collection to finally find his voice. But before I could even take a step back, a whole horde of ghouls swarmed out of the building, scattering like roaches when you flip on the kitchen light. Luckily, Aurora threw up a barrier of light just in time. Thank God for contracted witches who actually got a full meal. And these ghouls were clearly freshly relocated straight out of the undead mountains. They were just chilling in there, absolutely famished. And then we roll up like a DoorDash delivery that they didn't even order. My cheat system instantly laid out the whole stat breakdown. Ghouls, the standard mobs from the undead mountains. They look like decaying corpses with pale, grayish skin, withered muscles, razor-sharp teeth, and claws so lethal they can tear through flesh like parchment. Their saliva is pure venom, potent enough to paralyze you or rot your body from the inside out. Fierceli territorial. They'll attack anything that steps into their turf, even other monsters. Weaknesses, fire and bright light, which can temporarily blind and freeze them. And their most vulnerable spot, the sphincter. Seriously, the sphincter again? What is it with the rear end? Does this fantasy universe have obsession with but combat? Whatever. I'm not here to debate destiny. I'm here to win this thing. Aurora, use your flash to stunlock them. Abing, move in and go for the backside. I barked out the strategy without a second thought. Free XP was basically crawling right out of a building toward us. Passing up a chance to power level Abing right now would literally be a crime against gaming. Aurora gave a quick nod, charged up a luminous orb, and hit those ghouls with a blinding flash, brighter than a stadium searchlight. Every single ghoul instantly froze in place, looking like someone had slammed the pause button on them. Abing rushed in, blade drawn, and aimed directly for the critical spot. Stab! Stab! The legendary but assassin was officially back in action. Every single time the ghouls started breaking free, Aurora hit them with another dazzling burst of light, paralyzing them right in their tracks. Then Abing would dive back into his rear-end rampage. One thrust wasn't enough. Double thrust. Still moving? Triple thrust. The guy had clearly discovered his true calling, and that calling was extremely specific. The two of them operated together like a grotesquely fine-tuned war machine. Aurora was the ultimate crowd control queen, while Abing was the DPS rear-end specialist. Within minutes, the entire pack of ghouls was completely wiped out. Skeleton Abing sled 15 ghouls. Upgraded from low-tier Bone Warrior to mid-tier Bone Warrior. Bone Blade generation bumped from LV1 to LV3. He can now sprout blade-shaped bones directly from his arms. Basic Necro Resonance leveled up from LV1 to LV3, allowing him to command up to 5 low-level skeletons. Dark Corrosion Resistance boosted from LV1 to LV3, rendering him totally immune to standard corrosion. Abing can now literally grow swords out of his arms and boss around a mini undead squad. My little backstabbing skeleton was evolving into a legit warrior. Aurora, on the other hand, gained 0 XP from the fight, just a massive appetite. Her progression system was on a whole different level. No grinding mobs, no standard experience points. She required specific awakening stones and special rituals to rank up. Though honestly, right now, a single Aurora could obliterate 100 peak-tier Bone Warriors without even breaking a sweat. She was practically a max-level raid boss, carrying a total rookie through a starter dungeon. Lord Baron, back when the Edward lineage was still flourishing. We never used to live like this, crashing in monster-ridden ruins. Best was practically weeping, straight-up sobbing. His knees were still trembling from that ghoul attack, and honestly, his self-respect had checked out. About 3 territories back, I mean, this place actually isn't too bad. Yo, Bing, go gather up some locals. We need a hand tidying up a... Bing darted off and dragged back 5 little skeleton bros. If Red Moon territory has an endless supply of anything, it's definitely skeletons. They were mindless, sluggish, and couldn't process a single thought. Pretty much unpaid interns. Still, they could sweep up and haul boxes. So hey, no complaints here. Our skeletal maid service got straight to work. And just a couple hours later, we turned this place into a legit home. 3 floors, 5 bedrooms, 3 living rooms, 2 baths, a total mini-mansion. Sure, the walls were cracked and the ceiling leaked. But that was a problem for future me. I picked up furniture back in 4-leaf territory. So we were stocked with couches, carpets, artwork, beds, bookshelves, desks, tableware, and lamps. The chandelier hanging overhead still had some old candles left in it. Once I sparked those up, the whole place instantly turned super warm and inviting. Aurora flopped onto the couch with a wide smile. She'd busted her, but scrubbing every single room, and even climbed onto the roof to patch up the holes. This was her place now. She totally earned it. So, is this really going to be our place? Yep, this is the future Lord's estate, and we can always build on more later. Through the giant glass windows, we could see a backyard overgrown with weeds taller than Aurora. That desperately needed a trim. But again, tomorrow's problem. I headed over to my brand new study, pulled out the official appointment scroll, bit my finger, and let a drop of blood hit the page. The paper flared with a golden glow and faded away. Done deal. It was official, both legally and magically. I was officially the Lord of Red Moon territory. I let out the absolute longest sigh of my life. Across both of my lives, no more deadlines hanging over me. No more threats of execution. No more running away. I actually own a territory now. Sure, it was a total dump, infested with monsters, choked in mist, and overrun by werewolf plagues. But it was all mine. First thing tomorrow, I'd inspect the perimeter, track down any villagers who managed to survive, and see how many people I actually had to work with. A few of these undead mountain beasts were going toward leveling up Abbing. Others would be turning back at 4-leaf territory for the reward. Money, plus I needed to scout around for valuable resources. Anything that could help build up some wealth in this wasteland. Suddenly, a cold shiver ran down my spine, not from the fog outside, but from the tiny candle remnant sitting in my pocket. Just 1 centimeter. That's all that was left of my acceleration candle. The legendary training artifact once owned by Knight Roland. Aurora and Abbing had locked in their own paths to power now. Aurora had her Witch Awakening mechanic going for her. Abbing had his endlessly grinding kill and evolve system. As for me, though, I was still just a scrawny, a barely trained teenager who couldn't even defeat a single ghoul in a fair fight. I shut the door and lit the candle. As the flame flickered within its warm glow, the stern face of the legendary knight, Roland, began to materialize. He looked at me, the exact way a teacher looks at a student who showed up to the final exam without a pencil. "What is your dream?" Roland asked. The legendary knight stepped out from the candlelight, his hands clasped behind his back, staring at me like a drill sergeant, sizing up a new recruit who showed up wearing his pants backward. "What is your dream?" he asked, a question he poses every single time. And here's the catch that nobody knows. This question is a total trap. Say you want power, money, women, or fame, and Roland will literally turn around, walk back into the flame, and leave you with absolutely nothing. The candle basically reverts to a standard stat-boosting item, minus the legendary mentorship. But if you say, "I want to be a great knight like you," boom, his eyes light up. He takes you in as his spiritual successor and passes down everything he knows. This is probably why no one ever figured out that the candle came with a complimentary legendary instructor. Everyone who bought it before probably wished for gold or a bigger castle, only to get ghosted by a dead guy. "I want to become a great knight just like you, Master Roland." Hearing this, Roland's eyes gleamed, and he gave a satisfied nod. "Good. A true knight must bond with his blade. Tell me your current rank, so I can guide you properly." "I'm roughly at the level of a trainee knight, I think." To be honest, I wasn't entirely sure. You see, my cheat ability lets me inspect details about literally everything. People, gear, monsters, even random rocks. Yet it stubbornly refuses to display my own stats. It's like a smartphone that can snap pictures of anything, except itself. I can only estimate my strength based on how my battles went, and right now, I couldn't even defeat a single bang, which placed my power somewhere between, slightly above an ordinary peasant, and still pretty embarrassing. "Hold on, Ned. You have a long journey ahead, kid." "Understood, master." Master the basics first. Your grip, your stance, your footwork. Build up muscle memory and sync your hands, eyes, and body movement. Build your physical core to boost both your sword speed and striking power. Practice against a real opponent right here. Use me as your sparring target. The moment you manage to land a single hit on me, you will finally be a true knight. I drew my sword and took a swing at him. Naturally, I didn't land a single hit. Not on day 1, not on day 2, and not once for the rest of that week. However, after 7 straight nights of candle buff training, under the guidance of a legendary ghost coach, my body went through a massive physical overhaul. I went from looking like a dried-up scarecrow to an actually fit young guy. A légitimat traîné night physique. I actually had muscles now, and I could sprint without losing my breath. Truly revolutionary stuff, right up until the candle finally burned out. I stared down at the tiny puddle of melted wax, watching my most prized item completely vanish into thin air, just like my family's wealth, my sweet, easy life, and even my natural skin tone. Luckily, Roland's lessons were forever engraved in my mind. Every single combat stance, every harsh correction, and every single disappointed sigh were permanently saved in my mental hard drive. Plus, I now had being a mid-tier bone warrior, packing the power of a 2-star knight as my permanent training buddy. Replacing a legendary ghost master with a literal skeleton dummy? Talk about the biggest downgrade of the century. But hey, at least it was totally free. After taking a bath, I sat down to eat dinner with Aurora, while Bess stood against the wall like a proper butler, flat out refusing to sit with us. Bess, you worked hard today, so just sit down and eat, I said. What came next was the most passionate rant I've ever heard, about why a servant shouldn't eat dinner. My lord, a servant eating at the exact same table as his master? This would utterly destroy your noble reputation. Other aristocrats would mock you relentlessly. You must be deeply traumatized. Oh, poor Baron. The Edward house may be gone, but you are still a lord of this realm. You have to maintain your dignity. If you ever order me to sit at this table again, I will have completely failed my duty to the late Earl. And even in death, his ghost will haunt and scold me. My soul would never rest in peace. So yeah, I gave up. My modern 21st century values were clearly no match for medieval butler pride. Meanwhile, Aurora had shrunk back into her cute lowly form. Turns out, every time she unleashes her power in a fight, she drains all her energy and deflates like a pop balloon. She was absolutely furious about it, and she was taking out all that rage directly on her steak. That poor slab of meat was sliced into roughly 47 tiny pieces. It really didn't deserve that abuse. Later, Bess set up the sun lamps outside and placed demon-repelling stones all around the estate's perimeter. The stones emitted a scent that kept low-level undead far away, while the bright lamps countered the red moonlight, which also worked wonders against werewolves. Night 1 in our brand-new home passed without a single problem, a complete miracle. The following morning, I went out to inspect Red Moon territories. Defensive walls, but plot twist. There were no city walls at all. No one had ever actually ruled this land before me. No lord meant no walls. No walls meant 0 defenses. And 0 defenses meant any monster with sharp teeth and claws could just stroll right in whenever it got hungry. Building walls was easily my top priority, but walls required workers, and workers needed to actually be alive. So step 1 was actually finding out if there were even any human survivors left in this domain. Over the next month, we quickly settled into a steady routine. Aurora and being cleared out monsters from abandoned villages, while I honed my swordsmanship on the weaker creatures. Bess managed our supplies and constantly complained, while the skeleton crew, and I mean literally actual undead skeletons, handled all the construction work. Gradually, the Lord's mansion expanded far beyond the original villa. We expanded the base by setting up a storage facility, stables, and a farming zone. The only problem? The dirt was so heavily corrupted by dark magic that absolutely nothing could grow, unless we chugged pricey cleansing potions onto it. We completely cleared out every nearby hamlet within walking distance, giving us enough shelter to host 100 people. Our current living human count? Exactly 0. Instead, we had a couple dozen loyal bone boys, a single grumpy butler, 1 shape-shifting witch, and a skeleton with an unhealthy bone obsession. A whole month passed without finding a single living soul in sight, and I was starting to think this place was just as dead as everyone claimed. Bing, on the flip side, was living his absolute best life. This entire territory was pretty much an all-you-can-kill buffet for the guy. He ranked up straight from a mid-tier bone warrior to a high-tier bone warrior. capping out every single one of his abilities. He can now sprout bone weapons right out of his limbs, command up to 10 skeletons simultaneously, and possessed total immunity against elemental decay. His sword skills had reached level 2 as well, featuring an official specialization specialty labeled. And trust me, I am not making this up. Master of rear-end backstabbing. Honestly, his resume would be the most terrifying and bizarre document any boss has ever had to read. As for me, I ranked up from trainee knight to a 1-star knight, meaning I could finally solo low-tier mobs, without totally embarrassing myself, though against anything actually tough, particularly those pesky werewolves, I'd still end up completely wiped out. Werewolves were far above the level of a bone warrior, and with the red moon buffing their stats, they were practically unkillable if Aurora wasn't around. Seriously, without Aurora, our whole operation would go up in flames in under 12 hours. After grinding away for an entire month, I took inventory of our captured monster haul. 12 werewolves, 23 ghouls, 45 skeletons, and 1 massive corrupted beast, all bound up and ready to ship out. Time to pack it up, team. We're heading off to 4-leaf territory to collect our bounty rewards. With 0 arable land, 0 income, and 0 trade, our sole business model was literally dragging monsters right to our neighbor's doorstep and demanding, "These are your problem. Hand over the cash." Ah, the life of a frontier lord. Where your main export is captured nightmares, and your primary client is the exact neighbor who caused the whole mess in the first place. Before setting off for 4-leaf territory, I had to double-check that my base wouldn't turn into a werewolf vacation spot. The second I left Ah Bing and best behind to hold down the fort. However, since Ah Bing, even at peak bone warrior status, stood no chance against a werewolf in a fair fight, I had to make sure fairness was completely taken off the table. Having spent a full month analyzing those werewolves, I had mapped out their 3 biggest advantages. Moon Rage, which amps up their strength under the red moon. Flesh Regeneration, letting them heal like Wolverine. And Scent Tracking, making their snouts practically walking GPS units. So, I crafted specific countermeasures for each of them. Layer 1, Odor Traps. I had Ah Bing bury 30 earthenware pots around the outer perimeter walls, crammed to the brim with rotting animal guts, blended with crushed bone and secured with silver wire. Because werewolves absolutely despise the stench of rot. They only crave fresh meat and avoid nasty smells. Like an all-you-can-eat zombie buffet. This trick would totally fool their sense of smell into believing our estate was just another filthy monster lair that wasn't worth raiding. Ring 2, the Bone Spike Minefield. Ah Bing drained 30% of his total mana to summon a squad of skeleton moles, digging out honeycomb-patterned bone spike traps right beneath the stone flooring. I calculated the exact weight of a werewolf, meaning any beast jumping into the courtyard would land square. Talk about an unwelcome mat. Ring 3, on a razor-sharp bone stake. The Ghost Patrol. I crafted life-sized leather dummies using old horse gear, stuffed them with jingle bells and glowing phosphorus powder, then had skeleton moles haul them along set pathways. To any werewolf scoping us out from the tree line, it would look like fully armed guards, patrolling the grounds. It was scarecrow design, fused with medieval psychological mind games. And that was just the outer layer. Layer 2 was the inner courtyard kill zone. Ring 4, the Silver Ray Machine. I melted down all the silver candle holders from the attic into shotgun shrapnel and packed them into custom-made drainage pipes. Ring 6, the Bone Swamp, was legitimately contemplating. My 60-year-old butler was literally manning an anti-werewolf turret. Talk about the ultimate career change. Ring 5, the Bloodbait. Cow's blood mixed with deadly nightshade juice was smeared all over the greenhouse glass. The wolves would catch a whiff of that blood, go completely feral on the greenhouse, and burn out their stamina wrecking an empty shed. Bess was set to operate. The skeletons modified the main entrance stairs into a deadly bone and gravel trapdoor. Every single step gives way 15 centimeters, and the gravel was infused with holy salt, which was just basic table salt that Aurora had blasted with holy purifying magic. Werewolves loathe holy salt the same way cats hate taking baths. Ring 7, the Ghoul's Curse. I had a single rare, curse-bearing ghoul locked away in the cellar, harvesting its blood on the daily. Its blood could be crafted into curse grenades that triggered intense hallucinations and total confusion. The second it touched you, get hit with one of these, and you'd end up throwing hands with your own shadow, while Ah Bing sneaked up and backstabbed you. And even if Ring 7 failed, I still had Rings 8 and 9 ready to go. 32 death traps in total. My mansion was officially more lethal then the dangerous wilderness surrounding it. Once the final trap was fully set, I felt confident enough to step out. Bess and Ah Bing, however, were not confident at all. They just stood dead center in the living room, completely frozen in sheer terror, scared that taking even a single step anywhere might set off one of my rig traps and blow them sky high. Honestly, Bess, a manual lever to unleash a devastating wave of silver shards, worrying he might literally starve to death before I got back, simply because he was too terrified to walk to the kitchen. So, Ah Bing, in what was probably the most wholesome moment of his entire undead career, reached straight into his bag and offered Bess one of his prized gnawed bones. Now, this guy had never shared a single bone with anyone before, so this was top-tier skeleton friendship right here. Ah Bing had officially accepted Bess as family. Bess stared down at the smooth, polished bone, which was so ridiculously clean it looked like jade, and felt his soul leave his body. At this point, he just wanted the world to end. Meanwhile, Aurora and I climbed into our carriage and set off toward Mount Hose. Our driver was Skeleton Minion 1, one of Ah Bing's new recruits, who had spent the entire past month doing heavy construction. He had zero hidden talents and no grand destiny as an undead overlord. But man, the little guy was a hard worker. My plan was to eventually train him into a solid farmer, because every growing kingdom needs agriculture. How long are we staying in four-leaf territory? Aurora asked, practically vibrating with excitement. She'd been trapped in a monster-infested wasteland for a whole month straight. So the thought of visiting an actual civilized city was making her completely lose her mind. I held up 3 fingers. Day 1, cash in our monster loot, then stock up on magic potions and high-grade seeds. Day 2 morning, pay a visit to the local church and invite them to open a branch back in Red Moon territory. Day 2 afternoon, buy supplies. Day 3, a free day to explore the town, do some shopping, and see what 4-leaf is doing right so we can copy it. Aurora's eyes instantly lit up like fireworks, but she quickly suppressed her excitement and raised her chin, acting stubborn. If you think I'm going to say, thank you, my great lord, I will serve you with even greater loyalty from now on. That is definitely not happening. Yeah, sure. I casually dropped 100 gold coins into her tiny palm. Consider this your monthly wage. Buy whatever your heart desires. She hesitated for a moment, then finally took it. This was a huge deal to her. Taking a paycheck meant she was an actual employee, not just some slave. That distinction mattered way more to her than the money itself. And honestly, 100 gold for a witch was borderline insulting. Most witches wouldn't even roll out of bed for less than 10 times that amount. But real talk, it was literally all I could afford, while trying to rebuild an entire territory from scratch. Besides, Aurora didn't care about the numbers anyway. Everything she truly wanted: respect, freedom, safety, and someone who never pried into her dark past or forced her to do things she hated. I had already given her since day 1. I always saved the best portions of food for her at dinner, never treated her like a piece of property, and even helped her unlock powers she never dreamed she could possess. These days, she woke up every morning genuinely excited, wondering, what monsters are we hunting today? And what are we having for lunch? Simple questions, simple happiness. No longer burdened by the shame of her illegitimate birth. No more terrifying thoughts of being captured and sold off. The second she stashed those coins away, I finally let out a huge sigh of relief. If she turned down the cash, I would have completely freaked out, since that would mean my payout wasn't nearly high enough. As our carriage rolled across Mount Hose, we casually nabbed an extra 32 monsters along the route. Honestly, this mountain was straight up a gold mine with legs. Every single ghoul, every skeleton, and every creepy crawling monster was practically walking cash. Just free money waiting for us to claim it. We literally had to stop hunting them, simply because our carriage ran out of room. Monsters were crammed into every single corner. Our skeleton driver was literally perched right on top of a ghoul. Aurora was resting her feet on a tied-up skeleton, and I was totally squished between 2 paralyzed werewolves, just like the meat inside a nightmare sandwich. Crossing the peak and stepping into 4-leaf territory, we headed straight toward the Adventurers Guild, aka the only local bank that takes living monsters as cash deposits. I shoved open the massive wooden door of the Adventurers Guild, and a little bell chimed above me, sounding like it was announcing the grand entry of an absolute VIP, which, let's be real, was me. But then the stench hit us first. It smelled as if damp leather and stale booze had a baby, and that baby had never washed itself a single day in its life. Bronze candle holders were practically weeping. Meltdowns of wax onto the oak tables. while a taxidermied, one-horned lizard head dangled from the rafters. A rusty arrow still stuck right through its eye socket. Upstairs, heavy iron boots were stomping across creaky floorboards, shaking down a shower of sawdust into the fireplace below, making the flying ashes look like the world's saddest snow globe. The quest bulletin board was swarming with adventurers, who reeked like they'd been rotting alive, underneath their own cloaks. Over by a barrel leaned a bandaged female ranger, nonchalantly wiping fresh blood off her dagger, while nasty purple bruises peeked out from the gaps in her leather gear. The second we stepped inside, every single set of eyes in the room locked onto us. And no, it wasn't because of Aurora's striking silver hair, nor was it because I looked like a noble who'd been left out to dry in the sun. It was because parked right behind me was an insane mountain of capture monsters. 12 werewolves, 33 ghouls, 67 skeletons, and one colossal, corrupted giant beast, all casually stacked up right behind my back, looking like I was just out delivering pizza. A monster pizza special. Wait, is that a corrupted giant beast? Man, I haven't seen one in that great condition for ages. Who is this guy? A rookie adventurer? Dude must be wildly strong. Reckon he'd let me join his squad for a raid into the undead mountains. The veteran working behind the counter, a white-haired, red-nosed old fellow named Tom, caught sight of the massive haul and practically flew right off his stool. Dropping his quill mid-stroke, he shuffled over to us, eagerly rubbing his hands together, like a fly that just stumbled upon a giant wedding cake. Welcome, customer. Are all these up for trade? Yup. Name your price. Ah, you must be new around here. You don't actually have to haul the entire monster in. Just bring in the left ear or its core crystal is plenty. Though, we do provide full butchering services for a small, extra fee. Before I could even open my mouth, he'd already led us over to the counter and poured 2 filled-to-the-brim mugs of wheat beer. Without missing a beat, I snatched Aurora's mug right out of her hand. She doesn't drink. She's still a minor. Hey, I am not. Aurora snapped back instantly, though she ended up shoving the glass away herself anyway. I just think wheat beer tastes disgusting. Tom let out a chuckle and swapped her drink out for some orange juice. Aurora accepted the glass with a solemn, noble nod. Orange juice is clearly the choice of true grown-ups. Kid, you barely weigh as much as one of Abing's leg bones. But sure, totally mature. Real classy. So, how much are you charging for the butchering fee? I asked, referring to the over 100 monsters we brought in. Around 1 gold coin. Now, after taking out the fees, what's the grand total? Tom started jotting down numbers on a piece of paper. For the werewolves, we only buy their fangs and claws. That's 50 gold per wolf. With 12 wolves, that comes out to 600 gold. For the ghouls, it's 1 gold per magic core. 33 ghouls means 33 gold. As for the skeletons, it's the exact same deal. 67 skeletons get you 67 gold. Now, a corrupted giant beast usually goes anywhere from 2,000 to 10,000 gold, depending on its condition. Yours is average quality, so I price it at about 4,000 gold. That brings the entire total to 4,700 gold. But after subtracting our processing and tax fees, you'll be walking out of here with 2,350. Right on cue, my cheat ability activated instantly. Tom Ross, veteran appraiser. Seeing that you're a rookie, he intentionally gave you a lowball offer. That corrupted giant beast is easily worth at least 6,000 gold. This crafty old guy was seriously trying to rip off nearly a third of the real price. All because I looked like an inexperienced newbie. Man, even in a fantasy medieval setting, getting scammed is a universal truth across dimensions. Hey Aurora, they're charging taxes here. Forget it. Let's just head next door to the Royal Alchemy Society instead. Aurora didn't have a clue about any of this trade stuff, so she just gave me a obedient nod and set her finished juice cup down on the table. Good girl. Before I could even take 2 steps, Tom grabbed my sleeve tightly. Hold on. Let's talk about this. Suddenly, the female ranger over at the bar chimed in out of nowhere. Old Tom, are you seriously taking advantage of newbie? A corrupted giant beast like that is easily worth 5,000 gold minimum. Those monsters are ridiculously tough to hunt down. Tom dramatically rubbed his eyes with an embarrassed look. Oh, my bad. My old eyes must be playing tricks on me today. You're right, 5,000 gold it is. The ranger shot Tom a subtle wink. It was painfully obvious these two were playing good cop, bad cop. She pretends to save the rookie from getting ripped off. Tom adjusts his mistake to another slightly higher, yet still lowball offer, and she gets a cut of the profits behind the scenes later. Everyone else in the guild just acted like they saw nothing, which told me they pulled this exact trick on fresh faces all the time. I rubbed the bridge of my nose in frustration. Since clearly nobody in this place actually knows how to appraise items, I'll just take all my loot over to the Golden Alchemy Society. Word on the street is they don't take a tax cut. Hearing that, the ranger flashed a smile and slid in closer, leaning up against the bar counter, showing off her chest, like a tactical weapon designed to distract. Listen here, little bro. The Golden Alchemy Society might not charge taxes, but their payout is utter garbage. You won't even see 2,000 gold over there. Everybody knows that only the Adventurers Guild offers legitimate prices. Aurora glanced over at the ranger's stacked assets, and then took a quick look down at her own flat chest. Even when utilizing her witch transformation mode, she couldn't compete with those massive peaks. Guess I'll just head to the black market then, I said nonchalantly, turning around to walk away. Tom immediately lunged forward. All right, fine, customer. Name your offer. For the werewolves, ghouls, and skeletons, I'll agree to your initial price. However, for the corrupted giant beast, I'm asking 7,000 gold, not a single coin less. 7,000 gold coins? Old Tom stared at me, completely stunned, looking like he just witnessed magic. This rookie, who didn't even realize you only needed to bring in ears and magic cores, had somehow hit the exact market value of a corrupted giant beast. His brain was practically short-circuiting. Aurora tugged anxiously on my sleeve, worried that I was setting the price too high. I gently patted her head and gave her a reassuring look. Rule number 1 of negotiation: always aim ridiculously high at first, making the other party feel like they won a victory. When you back down, that's the real art of bargaining. And my little witch still had plenty to learn. Once Tom realized I was actually about to walk out the door, he finally caved. He summoned an expert elf appraiser, who activated a specialized magical eye technique to inspect the goods, then finalize the payment. Based on the Continental Monster Valuation Standard, the grand total for all monsters comes to 7,000 gold coins. However, you must sign an exclusive partnership deal. Every monster you hunt in the future comes to us first. Works for me. Building a long-term alliance with the guild meant getting priority access to bounty news, insider intel, and high-tier quests. Besides, I eventually needed to scout skilled adventurers for the Red Moon domain anyway, so making contacts here was practically a recruitment drive in disguise. Yet, when Tom began counting out the gold, he handed over a mere 3,500 coins. What gives? Where's the other half? Anyone lacking a registered local adventurer ID is hit with a mandatory 50% trade tax. We processed the tax filing for you, so it's already been taken out. I reached into my coat and pulled out the Undead Mountains. Monstre Extermination Joint Accord, the exact contract I had forcefully extracted from Royce. Tom's eyes almost popped right out his head. This kid actually originated from the Red Moon domain, a cursed land where beasts literally outnumbered blades of grass. No wonder he showed up carrying an entire mountain of corpses. Even the most money-hungry mercenaries on the continent wouldn't dare set foot near that death zone. Yet this random teenager casually waltzed in carrying a complete monster catalog. Fair enough. Undead creatures are tax-exempt based on this agreement. However, these werewolves aren't native to the Undead Mountains. Fine then, I'll just sell the werewolves on the black market instead. Word on the street is that wolf fangs fetch 200 gold apiece over there. Tom's face twitched, finally realizing I wasn't just some clueless rookie stumbling through my very first deal. I knew the whole game, the prices, the loopholes, the black market alternatives. That whole gosh, I don't know the rules act, a total trap, and he walked right into it. Fine, I'll buy the whole lot. Every single piece. Just please come to us first next time. He handed over 7,000 gold coins, looking like a guy literally bleeding out. Honestly, this was probably the biggest trade this guild had pulled off all year. That's when I noticed the local adventurers staring right at my stash, eyeballing it like hungry wolves, zeroing in on a helpless lamb. Yeah, not good. Walking out of there with a massive sack of cash was basically slapping a giant target on my back. Time for a little quick PR work. I slammed 10 gold coins right onto the bar and shouted, "Listen up, everyone. Name's Luke, an adventurer hailing from Red Moon. Great to meet you guys tonight. Drinks and food are on my tab. Go ahead and order the top shelf stuff." See, 10 gold was more than enough to feed the whole room. The absolute best menu items for days. The crowd of cheap beer drinkers went wild, cheering like Santa Claus had just dropped in. Luke, Luke, Luke. They were chanting my name. Well, my fake name, anyway. Aurora gave me a totally baffled look. Why change my name, you ask? Simple, sweetheart. When you're walking around with 7,000 gold pieces, in a medieval town practically bursting with cutthroats, you don't go handing out your real identity. By playing Luke, anyone coming after my money would end up hunting down a phantom. I worked the room, mingling with the crowd, knocking back a couple beers, which, by the way, tasted straight up like watered-down regret, not even coming close to real liquor, before quietly slipping out with Aurora. And that's when I picked up on the tails following us. Because of course, right? Show up with a mountain of monster parts, walk out with a fortune in gold, and suddenly, every guy around is either your new best buddy or your future killer. No middle ground whatsoever. Right behind us, I caught them whispering terribly, if I do say so myself. Hey boss, anyone who can haul in that many beasts has got to be at least a 3-star, maybe even a 4-star night. Are we really doing this? Chill out. I felt him out back when we were drinking. He's a 1-star knight at best. There's no way he hunted all those monsters by himself. He's just a delivery guy. He probably has a whole squad backing him up. Then shouldn't we back off? Moron. That's the exact reason we need to strike now. Take out him and the girl. Swipe the loot, and who's ever gonna know? His squad is probably still stuck back in Red Moon. Miles away. All right. Smart call, boss. Yeah, real criminal masterminds here. 6 guys from the One-Eye Adventurer team. Cut off our path right in the alley. Their ringleader was a massive, shirtless meathead, rocking an eye patch, which apparently served as both his fashion choice and their gang's peak creative title. One-Eye, my guy, didn't get enough booze back there? Next time you step into Red Moon Land. Drinks are on me, I said with a smirk. Sorry, Luke, old pal. Love the free drinks, but I love your gold way more. Don't worry, though, I'm not a total monster. I'll make it quick, and as for the kid, I'll just snap her neck, painless and simple. These clowns had zero clue that the harmless little girl standing behind me was a walking, talking nuclear bomb. Aurora was completely masking her magic energy. So unless you were some high-tier archmage, she just looked like your average silver-haired kid. And hanging out in her casual, low-power form, nobody would ever suspect. She was the literal goddess who obliterated an entire undead legion just last week. I let out a dramatic sigh. Look, if it were just you, One-Eye, I might have actually considered handing over the cash. But you dragged 6 extra guys along, and honestly, I doubt you're willing to pocket 7,000 gold coins. All by yourself. Sharing is tough, right? One-Eye's grin instantly wiped off his face, as his paranoia kicked right into high gear. Because if a thief knows one thing for sure, it's getting backstabbed by other thieves. Who else is out there? Show yourselves. Stop hiding in the dark like cowardly rats. The alley flooded with people in seconds. Turns out One-Eye's gang was just the main course's warm-up. Right behind them rolled in the Spade Adventure Squad, the Red Boot Mercenaries. A whole swarm of freelance Ellsworths and, oh look, Miss Cleavage, that super helpful ranger from the pub, licking her dagger like a cat tasting cream. 31 total scoundrels. Out of maybe 80 people in the entire guild hall, literally half of them followed me in here to jump me. Every single one of these backstabbers was just laughing, chugging booze, and chanting Luke, Luke, Luke. Barely 5 minutes ago, I treated them to the priciest feast on a house menu. And this is how they return the favor? Honestly, though, I wasn't even mad. I was absolutely hyped. Because if Red Moon territory needed one thing, more than anything else, it was manpower. And 31 prime, able-bodied fighters just signed themselves up. They just hadn't realized it yet. Aurora was genuinely stunned. She just watched me drinking and laughing with them. A moment ago. Acting like old buddies, so she thought we'd actually bonded. Sweet, innocent. Socially anxious Aurora. Welcome to the real world. With a guy proposing a toast to your health at 6 p.m. is plotting your execution by 6:15. Luke, sweetie. Need a big sister shield you? I'll only charge a teeny-tiny protection fee. The ranger purred, dragging her tongue across the steel, with a grin that was half flirtatious and half predatory. Hey there, crazy Luke, my guy. Seems like you've run into a bit of a jam. The Spade Squad is here to lend a hand. Their leader smirked with a look that basically said, helping you means helping ourselves to your gold. The guy was missing his left arm, after a werewolf bit it off years ago, swapping it out for a solid iron hook. Real pirate vibes, One-Eye. You really think you're hogging this prize all to yourself? The Red Boots gang sure isn't letting that slide. Their boss proudly flexed his flashy red boots, as if fancy footwear was supposed to scare anyone. I took a quick head count. 6 3-star knights, 11 2-star knights, and the rest were just trainees. In a world like this, becoming a knight was the ultimate budget route to power. No pricey magic reagents required. Just push your body until it breaks, and then push even harder. Naturally, most adventurers were knights. Mages required ridiculous amounts of cash, the kind ordinary folks couldn't even dream of paying. For commoners, 3-star was pretty much the hard ceiling. Great for a bar brawl, sure, but totally useless against a real witch. You need a 6-star knight at minimum, just to stand a chance against an entry-level witch. And 6-star knights were full-on military generals. Even Simon, who claimed to be the strongest warrior in the entire 4-leaf territory, was only a 5-star. So these 31 guys were basically ants trying to jump a dragon. Aurora, did you eat enough earlier? She nodded, balled up her tiny fists, and boom, magical girl transformation time. 5 minutes later, the entire alley was filled with a lovely symphony of grown men sobbing their eyes out. Every single one of those tough adventurers was down on his knees, holding their eyes and crying, begging for mercy from the glowing goddess, who had just flashbang blinded the entire group. Please, Lady Witch, spare us. If we knew she was a witch, we never would have messed with you. We're so sorry. We'll never do it again. Lord Luke, please show some mercy. One eye was screaming louder than anyone else, mostly because he started the day with just one good eye, and was now sitting at a solid 0, completely blinded by Aurora's holy light burst. Don't worry, though. The blindness was only temporary. After all, I needed actual laborers, not lawn ornaments. So, do you guys want to live? They bobbed their heads like little chicks pecking at grain, hands down the fastest, most desperate nodding I've ever seen. Then pack up and come work for me in Red Moon territory. Instantly, every single face drained of color. Red Moon territory? Even stray dogs avoided Red Moon territory like the plague. That place was overrun by werewolves even before the monster wave hit. And now, it was practically Satan's personal playground. No, fine, then die. Choices have consequences, after all. I made a swift slit-your-throat gesture, and Aurora helpfully charged up a glowing orb of light in her palm, looking like she was locking onto targets with their names on them. We'll go. We'll go. We volunteer. They were all bawling now, every last one of them. 31 grown-ass warriors weeping in a filthy alleyway. All because of one teenager and his magical girl. The psychic laid down an absolute ultimatum for them. Perish right now, or perish a bit later. Naturally, they picked later. Honestly, a pretty smart call. Now, sign these, I said, whipping out a thick stack of slave contracts. Just like that, the weeping instantly stopped. Every single adventurer stared at those pre-prepared papers with pure, rising horror. Wait a second. He had these printed and ready before the fight even started? Before the ambush? Before any of this even went down? Well, the apex predators always play the part of easy prey. I had this entire trap mapped out the second I stepped into that guild. That grand entrance with a massive pile of monster corpses. That flashy 7,000 gold coin payout. And that overly generous drinks are on me routine. It was all pure bait, designed to get them to tail me. I specifically wanted them to try and mug me, because the only way to draft 31 battle-hardened mercenaries into relocating to the most cursed territory on the continent was to back them into a corner with 0 ways out. And these contracts were the ultimate proof. I had them sitting in my coat pocket the whole time. So they signed on the dotted line, because what else could they do? Every single signature came with quiet sobbing, and the sound of their dreams dying. First order of business, I announced. Hand over every piece of coin you've got. Second, head back home and pack up your belongings. Grab your weapons and rations. Third, if you have families, feel free to bring them along. But if you're worried for their safety, bid them farewell and show up solo. You have 3 days. Gather at the foot of Host Mountain. Cue even more sobbing as coins came rattling into Aurora's hands. From 31 completely broke, miserable pouches. That's when One Eye walloped his minion so hard a tooth flew right out, shouting, "This is all your damn fault. Didn't I tell you?" Wait, actually no, he corrected himself. You told me not to do this, and I ignored you. Still, don't you ever be so greedy again. Boss, why are you beating me up? The lackey cried, clutching his face. Now, down a front tooth on top of everything else he lost. Grand total collected, 74 gold coins, 290 silvers, and 534 coppers. Aurora reported. I kept only the gold, and tossed the silver and copper right back to them. Go buy yourself some proper gear with that. And don't get it twisted, I'm not doing this out of kindness. I'm telling you this because Red Moon territory will chew you up and spit you out if you show up completely unprepared. The look on their faces was as if someone had just force-fed them a terrible garbage sandwich and then handed them the bill for it. Yeah, man, we get it. We know it's deadly. I turn around to hop back into my carriage, only to find my skeleton driver was officially dead. His soul flame completely put out. Turns out some absolute genius in their ambush group had stabbed him during the whole brawl. All right, whoever ganked my driver, get your butt up here and take a seat right now. Hearing that, One Eye burst into a fresh round of tears. smacked his lackey one more time, and climbed up onto the driver's bench himself, sobbing ugly tears the entire way up. Lord Luke, Lady Witch, where are we headed next? The magic potion market was situated right on Ale Street, over on the eastern side of the Four-Leaf territory, a winding cobblestone pathway, packed with shops and merchant stands, that reeked like someone had dumped a bunch of herbs into a fire. It's like someone tossed a bunch of chemicals and candy into a blender and set it to pure chaos. Since the alleyways further in were way too narrow, I had no choice but to park the carriage right at the entrance. I ended up leaving him behind to guard our ride, partly because he was actually useful, and partly because sitting there watching him weep was getting seriously uncomfortable. So Aurora and I headed inside together. The stalls were jam-packed with all kinds of jars and bottles, glowing liquids, weird mysterious smoke, and brightly colored potions everywhere. Honestly, it looked like a wizard's pharmacy had just exploded. Step right up and try my fire heart potion. It doubles your fire magic. A bearded dwarf shouted while waving a bottle of red liquid that was literally bubbling like lava. Downing that stuff will just give you severe heartburn and 3 straight days of constipation. Ignore him. My frost breath potion sharpens your ice magic precision. An elf lady in blue robes held up a crystal clear, vibrant blue bottle. It's expired, and it only works on elves. If a human drinks it, they're in for explosive diarrhea. Power liquid. Get an instant strength boost right here. Every warrior needs a bottle of this. A jacked, bald vendor shook a bright pink potion. Gives you insane strength for a grand total of 3 seconds, followed by an entire day of total exhaustion. A potion for constipation, a potion for diarrhea, or a 3-second steroid. Man, what a lineup. I walked right past every single stand without stopping once. My cheat ability was basically acting like a walking FDA inspector. Nothing made it past my quality control. Aurora, on the other hand, she was completely losing her mind. Her eyes lit up at every single shiny bottle, looking just like a kid in a candy store. If I hadn't literally grabbed her by the sleeve, she would have wasted her entire paycheck on fake snake oil. Oh, but look, that one glows. It glows because it's radioactive trash, Aurora. Keep moving. After walking past the main fountain, we finally arrived at the agricultural potion shop. The owner was a druid, a massive, green-skinned tree person sitting outside, puffing on a pipe and casually scratching between their toes with absolute bliss, while soaking up the sun's rays. The Leaf Territory's open-door policy meant every race could set up shop here, but unfortunately, that also meant the elves, dwarves, and druids had managed to master humanity's greatest traits, lying and scamming people. My cheat skills scanned the druid right away. A quick-tempered druid shopkeeper. Loves being complimented on her beauty. Warning, she is female. If you mistake her gender, she'll fly into a rage and refuse to sell you anything. Her potions, however, are 100% legit. Wait, this 7-foot-tall, rough-skinned, pipe-smoking, toe-scratching tree monster was a woman. Thank goodness for my cheat system, seriously. I totally would have called her sir and gotten banned from the only trustworthy potion shop in the entire market. Greetings, fair lady. I'm looking for potions to enrich my soil. Could you recommend a good one? Aurora instantly tugged hard on my sleeve. She was 100% convinced I'd misgendered the owner and was about to get us thrown out on our butts. The druid set her pipe aside and offered the brightest, most dazzling grin I'd ever seen from Tramp before. She was absolutely thrilled. Turns out, no one had given her a compliment in ages, and she'd been meticulously pampering her bark complexion, day in and day out, just for a moment like this. Naturally, I stock only the highest quality elixirs. If you happen to bring a dirt sample, I can give you an exact diagnosis. Hearing the druid's surprisingly soft voice, Aurora slowly gave me a sneaky thumbs up behind my back. She was utterly shocked that I'd somehow managed to guess her gender correctly. Once inside the shop, I handed her a small container filled with soil from the Red Moon territory. The druid popped it open, took a tiny pinch of dirt, and tossed it right in her mouth, like some fancy sommelier sampling a fine wine. Her entire face, every single bark line, and tree ring, contorted in pure, unadulterated disgust. She spit the dirt out on the spot. This is hands down the foulest dirt I have ever tasted. Nothing could ever grow in this disaster. Tell me about it. That's why I need your expertise. If I were in your shoes, I'd ditch that land entirely. The toxicity levels are completely off the charts. Come now, lovely lady. Surely a stunning and brilliant mind like yours has a fix for this. That smooth talk hit her like a freight train of flattery. She got so flustered that she basically floated up to the second floor to her private vault, hauling out her top-tier inventory. This right here is fertile essence. It can revitalize even the most dead soil. A single bottle covers 10 square meters. However, you'll also need holy water for irrigation, which I don't carry. You'll have to hit up a church or hire a purification mage. Plus, standard seeds won't cut it either. You're going to need abundant seeds, which can sprout even in barren deserts. Though fair warning, they don't come cheap. By the time I stepped out of her shop, the sun was already dipping below the horizon. My haul? Massive piles of fertile essence and abundant seeds. Total market value, 1,256 gold coins. What I actually ended up dropping, just 1,000 gold. That sweet 256 coin discount was made possible purely through the power of shameless flirting. Turns out, buttering people up is the ultimate cheat code. Currency no matter what realm you're in. She even threw in free delivery on top of it. Well, right up until I mentioned that the destination was the Red Moon territory. Out of nowhere, she suddenly remembered a blind date she couldn't miss. Super urgent, so there was no way she could make the trip. Her workers packed everything onto my wagon instead. And that was that. Honestly, though, can't really blame her. Nobody in their right mind delivers to werewolf territory. Not even Amazon same day would touch that route. As we left the market, One Eye, who was shockingly helpful for a change, recommended we crash at the Red Peach Inn. Turns out the owner was his girlfriend, which meant complimentary rooms, a free dinner, and massive spreads of fish, meats, and fruit wine. Free VIP treatment provided by a guy whose slave contract I literally own, courtesy of his girlfriend, who's almost certainly plotting to steal that contract back. Yep, totally legit, nothing fishy here at all. Get some rest, we're heading to the church first thing tomorrow. I instructed Aurora as she turned to head into her room, only to discover me stretched out on her mattress. What are you doing in my quarters? I swapped our rooms. Yours gets way better natural light. It's much better suited for you. Her eyes softened up, and she was starting to get all choked up. No one had ever shown her this kind of consideration before. Also, One Eye's lover's inn is bound to sneak into my quarters tonight to swipe his servitude agreement. So you crash there, and I'll crash here. Way safer. And just like that, her touching little moment was completely obliterated, crashing like a paper plane caught in a Category 5 hurricane. Look, the reality is nothing in this life comes free. That sweet fruit wine they poured for us earlier, it was spiked with a top-tier knockout draft. The moment I downed it, I ducked straight into the washroom and forced myself to throw it all back up. Purged it all out, disaster avoided. Now, Aurora doesn't touch booze, so she dodged the trap without even trying. Hey, being underage definitely has its advantages. One Eye's grand strategy was pretty straightforward. Knock me out, send his girl creeping in, reclaim the slave contract, and skip out on moving to Red Moon Domain. At least he wasn't dumb enough to target Aurora. Harming a witch is a straight-up capital offense in the Empire, considering they're essentially prized national treasures. Except he overlooked one tiny detail. I had traded rooms. So, when the infiltrate slunk into what she assumed was my bedroom, in the dead of night, she didn't encounter an unconscious one-star knight. Instead, she met a wide-awake, extremely pissed-off light witch. Comme Debrick. I had bagged another slave contract for my collection, along with complete ownership of the Red Peach Inn. So just like that, I secured guaranteed lodging every single time I pass through four-leaf territory. Totally free forever. Man, you gotta love One Eye. The guy basically came with a buy one, get one special plus a dowry. What a glorious morning. Early sunlight washed over the sharp spires of the Sun Church, beaming down like a spotlight on center stage. Devout followers were already queued up to give prayers, while the clergy members were hustling around, busiest than a drive-through window, during the lunch rush hour. Now, I needed a private audience with the high priest, but apparently, even a baron is expected to wait his turn for confession. So I pulled out my aristocratic badge and bypassed the entire line. Hey, sometimes holding a baron title is basically like having an all-access VIP pass to life. Father Timothy was an aged, wrinkled cleric possessing the kindest grin you'd expect on a grandfather, who just pulled a fresh batch of cookies out. Baron, how may I serve you? Father, I'm extending a genuine invitation for you to come. Spread the faith in Red Moon Domain. I'll grant you complimentary land and erect a grand sanctuary for you. After all, any legitimate domain requires a church, doesn't it? You see, the faith of the sun god carried massive influence throughout this empire. Having church officials stationed there would lend instant credibility to my domain and draw in actual settlers. Yet Timothy's gentle expression didn't flinch even a single millimeter. Yet his look gave away a hard, immediate rejection. Baron, That kind of call is way above my rank as a humble priest. The bishop happens to be away at the capital right now. Once he gets back, I'll definitely pass along your generous proposal. Translation? I'll pitch it to the bishop, and he'll shoot it down too. But hey, at least you won't be my problem anymore. So yeah, strike one. No priest for the Red Moon domain. I snagged a bottle of holy water before stepping out. Not that I actually had any real use for it, since Aurora's purification light pulls off the exact same trick, but because I trekked all the way here, and leaving with nothing felt like taking an L. I was just stepping up into the carriage, ready to write this morning off as a complete waste of time, when a nun suddenly blocked my horse's path. Baron, would you permit me to join you in the Red Moon territory? I pulled back the window drape, and there she was, framed against the morning light, glowing like she had a built-in beauty filter running in real life. Her hands were clenched so tight her knuckles had turned white, and her emerald green eyes were deep, holding a hint of something deeply shattered lurking beneath. A soft morning breeze stirred her white veil, offering a glimpse of her pale neck and a silver, holy emblem swaying right at her collarbone. Her navy nun's habit was tailored around the waist, in a way that made you seriously question a few things about the church's dress code. When our eyes locked, her long eyelashes fluttered like delicate wings, and those green eyes burned with an intensity that had zero to do with holy devotion. Right then, my cheat skill went wild. Lucy, a nun equipped with ridiculously high combat stats. She actually suffers from an extreme bloodlust condition, harboring an irresistible urge to kill and shed blood. However, her deep devotion to the sun god keeps her from harming innocent believers. Years of bottling up her violent instincts have plunged her into severe depression. If she isn't removed from populated areas soon, she'll likely turn into a full-blown serial killer. So basically, she's a walking murder time bomb, disguised in a nun outfit, standing right in front of me, asking for a job in the sweetest, most angelic voice you can imagine. Perfect. She's literally the exact piece I needed. I was already planning to assemble a monster hunting unit anyway, and the Red Moon land desperately needed a powerhouse who actually thrived on bloodshed. Anyone else I recruited would need constant motivation, but this woman just needed a target. Aurora poked her head out and stared open-mouthed at the nun. So pretty, she murmured under her breath. Yeah, she was gorgeous, all right, but that wasn't why I was recruiting her. The Red Moon territory didn't need supermodels. It needed stone-cold killers, and she happened to be both. You can tag along, but you take orders directly from me. I'll obey every instruction, Baron. Then she hesitated, her gaze dropping slightly. Though I must confess something to you first. I suffer from an illness, don't care. Hop in. Look, Red Moon's hiring bar is so low. If you got a heartbeat and can swing a blade, you're practically overqualified. What kind of sick? Aurora chimed in, shuffling closer to my side on the cushion. Lucy answered without a second's pause, sounding like she was just reciting a grocery list. A urge for carnage. Basically, I just genuinely love killing and blood. Aurora's jaw hit the floor, completely at a loss for words. She just quietly scooted herself over, getting even closer to my side, to the point where she was practically sitting right on my lap. My supposedly fearless guardian witch, the absolute destroyer of undead legions, was literally ducking behind me, just because a cute little nun confessed to being a psycho. I shot her a look like, bro, you're a witch. You literally pulverized an entire skeleton army into dust just last week. So why on earth are you terrified of one murder nun? I've heard the Red Moon territory is crawling with monsters. Lucy went on, her voice as gentle and pure as morning dew. I happen to know a little bit of swordsmanship, so maybe I can help clear them out for you. Her long eyelashes cast soft shadows across her cheeks, making her look like a literal portrait of the Virgin Mary. Well, assuming the Virgin Mary harbored a secret knife collection. So, are you a female knight? She shook her head. A mage then. Another shake of the head. Nope, just a regular nun. Not a knight, not a mage, and definitely not a witch. And yet my cheat skill was flagging her combat power through the roof. This was making zero sense. Were there other power systems hidden in this world that I hadn't unlocked yet? Then what makes you think you can handle fighting monsters? My mother was a human, but my father was a battle elf. So as a half-breed, combat just comes naturally to me. Her gaze drifted off as she remembered back when she was just a kid. The moment her latent powers awakened for the very first time, she accidentally ended up killing her abusive stepfather. Naturally, her own mother was so utterly terrified of her daughter that she shipped her straight off to the church to become a nun. Like, go be quiet, go be peaceful, go be literally anything other than a monster you actually are. So Lucy spent years sitting quietly in that church, white-knuckling her burning urge to paint the place red, sinking deeper into depression with every passing day. She knew deep down she was just a beast pretending to be a saint, and that she couldn't stay locked up forever. However, she had sworn a promise to the priest who raised her, that she'd never step foot outside the church walls, unless it was strictly to spread the holy faith. And that's where my sudden arrival gave her the perfect loophole, heading out to the Red Moon territory to establish a new branch, technically qualified as legitimate missionary work, which meant, on a technicality, she wasn't breaking her vow at all. Technicality, the absolute cornerstone of every great escape plan. I see, I replied, feeling a bit let down. Turns out it was just a bloodline trait, not some broken secret power system I could exploit for myself. Look, we're not heading out for the Red Moon territory until the day after tomorrow. Think you can keep a lid on yourself until then? I would do everything I can to keep my urges under control, she answered with a sweet, gentle smile, though I could catch a faint hint of murderous intent glinting in her eyes. Oh, by the way, this is Aurora, she's a witch. The killer aura vanished in an instant, just like flipping off a light switch. Lucy's survival instincts instantly spotted a predator, much higher up on the food chain. After all, you don't feel bloodlust toward someone who could erase you from existence with a simple flick of her wrist. Perfect. A little healthy fear keeps her in check, and I can work with that. Heading back inside the cathedral, a middle-aged nun hurried over to Father Timothy. Father, Lucy just boarded the Baron's carriage. The old priest gently closed his eyes. Let her go. She was never meant to stay here. He folded his hands together in prayer. May God help her find her path to redemption. Day 3 was shopping day with Aurora. And honestly, I had my own motives too. My acceleration candle was completely burned out, so I desperately needed a new magic item. After selling off all those monster parts, I had dropped 1,000 gold on potions and seeds, and another 1,000 on food and provisions, leaving me with roughly 5,200 gold. That ought to be enough for something decent. But first, Aurora needed some actual clothes. The girl had been wearing the exact same black Gothic dress ever since I bought her one single outfit, for over a month straight. Plus, whenever she shifted into her tall witch form, that dress turned dangerously short. So yeah, wardrobe upgrades took priority over magic tools for now. As my main asset and first real ally, investing in Aurora was just smart business. So, starting early that morning, I became the most patient shopping assistant on the planet. Aurora disappeared into the changing rooms, leaving me waiting outside with one eye, where we ended up having the most unexpected conversation. So, how much does your adventurer crew pull in a year? Honestly, we basically save zero cash. Earn money, spend money, earn some more, spend some more. That's just the adventurer life. So what about you and the innkeeper? You never thought about tying the knot? Don't you need to buy a place? Pay a wedding dowry, or something? Dowry? House. Beatrice already owns a house. Why on earth would I build another one? Besides, we can't even get married. That last part came out as a quiet mutter, so low I almost missed it entirely. Wait, why can't you get married? The Empire doesn't recognize same-sex marriage. One Eye's face turned completely red, and I nearly choked on my own spit. Hold up, Beatrice, the innkeeper is a guy. Damn, you guys are way more progressive than I gave this medieval fantasy world credit for. Suddenly, I was having second thoughts about bringing Beatrice to the Red Moon domain. Things are getting way too messy. Yeah, maybe it's best to just leave him here to run the inn. Yep, solid plan. Boss. Are you alright? You look kinda pale. I'm fine. Totally fine. Just then, the fitting room curtain pulled open. Aurora stepped out wearing pearl-embellished leather boots and a rococo style golden silk gown that flared out beautifully like a tulip, complete with lace-trimmed sleeves that highlighted her fair porcelain skin. A peacock blue sash cinched her waist tightly, and silver tassels swayed from her hair as she tilted her head, her starry eyes sweeping across the shop. The old tailor's spectacles literally slipped down his nose, and the shop assistant froze, completely forgetting to breathe. While holding a velvet jewelry display box, I stood there completely lost for words. Honestly, I was totally blown away by Aurora. Usually, she only wears all black, looking pretty dreary and sometimes even a bit unkempt. But today, she unlocked her full glow-up potential. It was like watching a caterpillar transform into a beautiful butterfly, except this caterpillar was actively trying to look plain. The entire time, she looked insanely adorable. Literally everyone in the shop had the exact same thought at the same exact moment. Aurora definitely wasn't used to having so many eyes on her. So she nervously fiddled with the edge of her skirt and stared down at her shoes. Does this look okay? It's perfect. That one fits you amazingly well, I replied, flashing her a big thumbs up. Go ahead and wrap up the other two. She tried on too. I instructed the shop clerk. Wait, no. Just one is plenty. Aurora frantically waved her hands, turning bright red. But hey, I knew her personality inside out by now. If she didn't genuinely like an outfit, she wouldn't have bothered trying it on in the first place. The fact that she actually modeled all three meant she secretly wanted every single one. Classic Sundra shopping logic right there. Our final shopping haul. 3 elegant gowns. 3 everyday outfits. Plus a matching set for both Best and Bing. The grand total wasn't even that high, so I happily covered the whole bill myself. Aurora felt totally self-conscious about not paying her share, so she insisted on buying me a present to make up for it. So Leanne, what's something you really want right now? It's not like I'm trying to buy you a gift or anything. I'm just asking out of pure curiosity. You don't even have to tell me if you don't feel like it. Her face was as red as a ripe tomato. My wish list is way too long. Just hold on to your coin and grab yourself some snacks instead. Hearing that, her cheeks puffed up like a furious chipmunk. Who are you calling broke? Just tell me what you want already. I feel awful. Accepting all these gifts from you without giving anything back. All right, time to wrap up this circular argument. Well, I actually do need a new magical artifact. Want to tag along and browse. The funny thing was, even the most basic, completely useless magic tool easily started at 1,000 gold. Meanwhile, Aurora's entire monthly wage was only 100 gold, meaning she couldn't even afford a magic item, even if she saved up every penny for a whole year. I fully expected her to throw in the towel immediately. She instantly deflated like a popped balloon, dragging her feet behind me toward the Mage Guild, with the exact kind of enthusiasm you'd expect from someone walking to their own funeral. This four-leaf branch was definitely smaller than the main one in the capital. No gorgeous blonde receptionist to greet us here, just a super grumpy dwarf artisan, who glared at us like we'd personally ruined his afternoon nap. Which, honestly, we probably did. This guy radiated a solid 20 years of, I absolutely hate my job, energy all over the room. I'm looking for a magical tool that can speed up crop growth. Without bothering with any friendly chit-chat, he casually reached into a nearby cabinet and yanked out a flute. Harvest flute. You play it. Clubs grow fast. That'll be 10,000 gold. Next, he pulled out a single green leaf. Harvest blessing. Just make a wish on the leaf. Get a single instant harvest. For 1,000 gold. One-time use. He leaned forward and stared right at me, asking which one I actually wanted. The flute, which was permanent and reusable, was exactly what the Red Moon territory desperately needed. But 10,000 gold? I barely had half that amount. He might as well have asked me to buy the moon. Was there anything in the 3 to 5,000 range? The dwarf brushed me off with a wave of his hand. Everyone's out there, conquering lands and looting resources. Nobody bothers with farming these days. You're lucky I even have 2 farming tools in stock. Buy something, or let me get back to sleep, man. There are other magic shops down the street. One I suggested. I threw one final, longing glance at the harvest flute, my gorgeous, completely unaffordable dream item, and followed one eye out for 3 more painful hours of shopping. We hit up every single magic shop in the area, and not a single one had any farming-related tools. I did pick up extra sun lamps, demon-repelling stones, and a lightweight protective vest. But as for the one thing I actually needed, zilch. Feeling completely defeated, I headed back to the inn, inventoried our supplies, and prepped for an early departure. The following morning, I drifted off to sleep with that stupid flute stuck in my head. When I opened my eyes the next morning, the harvest flute was sitting right on my pillow, literally inches from my face. The 10,000 gold magic tool I couldn't possibly afford. I just stared at it, then glanced across the room at Aurora's bed, which was empty. Her little coin pouch, the one I had given her with her 100 gold salary, plus whatever allowance she had left yesterday, was lying open and completely drained. That little dummy blew through every single coin she had, and even then, it wouldn't have been nearly enough, which meant she must have gone back to that cranky dwarf and done something completely unhinged, just to cover the rest. A heavy tightness gripped my chest, and it had absolutely nothing to do with my new protective vest. I rubbed my eyes 3 whole times, pinched myself twice, and gave myself a solid slap on the cheek. Yet, the harvest flute was still lying there on my pillow. It wasn't a dream, not a hallucination, and definitely not a prank. I grabbed it, ducked into the corner of the room, and aimed it at some moss growing in a wall crack. Just one tiny blow into the flute, and the moss literally exploded across half the wall, like green spray paint from a power washer. The moment I stopped blowing, it stopped expanding, This was legit the real harvest flute. The 10,000 gold magic tool that I 100% could not afford. Did I end up robbing the Mage Guild? Nah, he wouldn't dare. Knocking off the Mage Guild is a straight-up death sentence. So that meant someone bought it, but who had that kind of cash? It's not like I secretly had a rich sugar mommy lying around. I threw on my clothes and knocked on Aurora's door. She opened it up, looking like she'd just dragged herself out of a coma. Bedhead, puffy eyes, the whole package. I swear I wasn't up all night pulling anything shady. Give a suspicious look. Just then, my cheat skill notified me that Aurora bought the harvest flute right from the Mage Guild, leaving her in debt for a whopping 9,900 gold coins. She's locked into working at the Mage Guild 3 days a month, until that massive debt is cleared. I stood there frozen for a full 10 seconds, completely torn between bursting into tears or laughing out loud. This absolute idiot, this gorgeous, stubborn Sundara idiot. She literally had 100 gold coins to her name. The flute cost 10,000, so she handed over her 100, and then apparently marched right up to the grumpiest dwarf alive and asked to set up a payment plan for the remaining 9,900. And he actually agreed, simply because she's a witch, and witches are basically walking high credit scores. So she basically signed away years of her life to part-time labor. 3 days every single month at the Mage Guild, all just to buy a flute for me. Talk about dedicated Aurora. I held the flute up and said we should probably return it, since it wasn't worth. Absolutely not. You can't take it back. But then she quickly caught herself, stammering, I didn't buy that. It has nothing to do with me. I've never even laid eyes on that flute in my life. Girl, please. My cheat system literally just alerted me that you're 9,900 gold coins in the hole. But sure, a total mystery. Who could have possibly bought it? It could be literally anyone. Maybe the flute fairy snuck in overnight. Besides, we have to hit the road right now. She blurted out, frantically changing the subject. If we don't hurry back. What if something terrible happens to Bess and Abbing? I made a quiet vow right then. I'd settle that debt the next time we returned. To trade monster parts. There was no way I was letting my guardian witch moonlight as a part-timer for the Mage Guild. That's like using a fighter jet to deliver pizza. Once she realized I wasn't actually going to give the flute back, her face instantly brightened like sunshine, piercing right through the endless fog of Red Moon territory. Finally, we're headed home. Did you seriously get bored that fast? Yesterday, you were begging to stay longer. 4-leaf territory is nice and all, but I definitely prefer Red Moon territory. She said it so casually, as if she were just picking chocolate over vanilla, and not choosing a wasteland crawling with werewolves over a bustling, prosperous city. Just 5 weeks ago, she was a homeless slave, and here she was calling a ruined village in the middle of monster territory her home. My heart did that familiar tight squeeze again. After finishing breakfast, we packed up the carriage. When I first rolled into 4-leaf territory, I had just one beat-up carriage. But leaving? I was rolling out with a full-blown convoy. I had organized all 31 adventurers, along with the stragglers, into the official Red Moon Territory Order of Knights. Any lord has the legal right to establish their own private knight order, though mine was built entirely out of the guys who tried to mug me. A bit unconventional as far as recruiting goes. But hey, it works. Even the adventurers were actually starting to cheer up the moment it dawned on them that they were now legit official knights, backed by the full authority of the government. And right as we cleared Hose Mountain, we ran headfirst into a massive slime monster. Aurora completely vaporized the thing with a single blast. Watching a slime the size of a building melt into nothing, the knights suddenly didn't find Red Moon territory quite so terrifying anymore. With a witch on our side, we might actually make it out of this alive. But as soon as we stepped foot into Red Moon territory, my stomach completely sank. The very villages we'd spent an entire month building and fixing up were completely trashed, with signs of a brutal battle everywhere. Demolished buildings, charred ground, and deep claw marks carved into every single surface. Please, Bing, you better be okay. Aurora's playful smile instantly vanished. Lucy, our resident murder nun, caught a whiff of the air and flushed bright pink. She picked up the scent of fresh blood, and she was holding back for dear life, trying not to look excited about it. We pushed forward at full speed, right until a group of fully armored knights cut off our path. Halt! Identify yourselves and turn back immediately. Do not interfere with our operation to hunt down the Wolf King. Their armor was emblazoned with a cross and flame crest. The Radiant Cross Crusaders from the Radiant Fire territory. Literally Red Moon territory's next-door neighbor. Quick geography lesson for you. 4-leaf territory is separated from Red Moon by Hose Mountain, meaning they aren't true neighbors. Radiant Fire, on the other hand, shares a direct border with Red Moon. Years ago, their lord took one look at this land, decided it had too many werewolves and zero value, slapped up a massive wall, and acted like Red Moon didn't even exist. That's literally the whole reason Red Moon became its own separate territory in the first place. And why I got dumped out here. And now, out of nowhere, these guys show up. After ignoring this place for years, something definitely smelled fishy, and for once, it wasn't a Bing's Bone collection. I activated my cheat ability to scan their leader, Vichy Frank, Vice Commander of the Radiant Cross Crusaders. 4-star Knight, Sir Lian. Those are Radiant Cross soldiers. One eye mumbled under his breath. They're the most ruthless order of knights in the entire South. Their commander is supposedly a 6-star knight, holding a knight's proof. He's as legit as it gets. Chris the Ranger chimed in, we definitely shouldn't pick a fight with them. I was only half listening, completely locked in on. The hooded figure standing right beside Vichy. Dark energy, an ominous aura. My cheat system immediately flared up. Lysander, wanted necromancer. Bounty, 10,000 gold. A wanted criminal teaming up with Crusaders, right inside MY domain. Oh, things were definitely getting spicy. Having a necromancer on board made total sense, though. Red Moon territory had always been werewolf central. But with the surge of magic from the Undead Mountain, flooding the entire region with undead monsters, a necromancer operating here was basically playing the game on easy mode. An endless supply of undead troops everywhere you look. Honestly, bringing a necromancer along to hunt the Wolf King was actually a galaxy brain play. Evil? Highly illegal? Sure, but brilliant. And there was zero chance they were doing all this to help me out. I'd literally never seen these people before in my life. Whatever secret motive they had, one thing was crystal clear. That Wolf King belongs to me. Right on my domain, in my own backyard. Listen, you can't just barge into someone's place and start taking their stuff without asking. Commander Vichy, I'm Lee and Edward, the Lord of the Red Moon domain. If you're hunting wolves on my land, shouldn't you at least give me a heads up first? Vichy turned his horse around and glared down at me, staring from a vantage point. That was obviously meant to flex his authority. So you're the Baron. Perfect timing. He reached into his cloak and pulled out a letter. This is from our Lord. Unfolding it, I read. To Baron Edward. I'm James Bett, Lord of the Radiant Fire Territory. My cherished daughter, Elisha, has fallen horribly sick with an unknown illness. Our witch doctor claims that only the Wolf King's heart can cure her. I've dispatched my knights to assist you in wiping out the wolf packs and retrieving the Wolf King. I hope your territory is thriving. How sweet of him. The guy raised my villages, snuck a wanted necromancer into my lands, never bothered to request permission, and disguised the whole thing in a polite letter. It's like a neighbor who smashes down your fence, runs off with your dog, and leaves a thank you note in the rubble, helping me eliminate wolves. Yeah, right? And I'm supposed to believe that the Wolf King's heart is the sole reason you're here. There's definitely nothing else valuable about the most powerful beast in the entire territory. Huh? Nope, strictly medicine. On the surface, it looks like a standard letter requesting aid, but practically every word in it is total garbage. Every single line. This guy's daughter isn't even sick. The Wolf King's heart isn't some miracle cure. And this entire raid is just a massive scam, wrapped in fancy stationery. I kept a totally straight face and sent Aurora ahead to check up on Best in a bang. My lord. Vichy chimed in. Our master is simply a devoted father, desperately trying to save his child. Honestly, you're lucky we came to assist you. He said it like he was doing me a huge favor by illegally invading my territory. And one eye, bless his gullible little heart, fell for it instantly. My lord, if they're actually allies, this is incredible. The Radiant Cross Crusaders could wipe out every last wolf around here. We'd finally be safe. My newly minted Order of Knights got completely starstruck. Every single one of those former adventurers turned reluctant knights started gushing like fanboys at a pop concert, fighting side by side with the Radiant Cross. What a dream. I always wished I could join them. Too bad about my criminal record, though. Man, I'm so hyped right now. Meanwhile, the actual Radiant Cross knights were staring at my crew like they were examining some nasty gunk, scraped off the bottom of their boots. Cold, arrogant, and totally dismissive. One of them literally sneered in disgust. They were radiating pure, you guys are trash, energy straight at us. However, my crew was far too starstruck to even pay attention. Turns out fan blinders really are a powerful thing. Just then, A knight in gleaming silver armor thrust his lance straight across the road, completely blocking our path while declaring, "Now that you've been warned, get lost. You're only going to get in the way of our Wolf King mission. Clear out immediately." "Yeah, you bunch of civilians. Scram," One Eye barked, puffing out his chest while flexing the single bicep he had left. "We aren't ordinary civilians. We're the Order of Knights from the Red Moon territory. Baron Edward's personal squad. We can lend a hand. Shut your mouth. Back off right now, or we'll start treating you like monsters. A pack of sewer rats has no business standing anywhere near us. Just looking at you ruins our mood." And just like that, the fanned illusion shattered into pieces. Every single adventurer in my knight order suddenly snapped back to reality, realizing that these legendary heroes they practically worshipped viewed them as nothing more than total trash. The sheer disrespect hit them like a brutal slap straight to the face. But before anyone could even say a word back, Aurora walked back over, helping carry a battered, bruised, and completely swollen-faced Bess. The moment my old butler spotted me, he broke down and burst into tears like a bursting dam, crying, "My Lord Baron, these men are absolute savages. They abducted Ah Bing, and then they beat me half to death." "Did you bother telling them you're my butler?" "I told them right away, but they didn't care at all. They wouldn't even hear me out." Hearing that, an icy chill settled in the back of my eyes. I shot a sharp glance toward Vichy, who merely shrugged it off like it was no big deal. "My apologies, Baron. My guys probably didn't hear him properly. They must have mistaken your old man for some local tramp. Maybe they got a little too rough while kicking him out, so I'll give them a scolding later. Anyway, the blood moon is about to rise, and our trap for the Wolf King is almost set up. So take your little group and get out of here, before someone gets caught in the crossfire. Ah Bing is my servant. Hand him over first." My voice sounded completely flat and bone-chillingly cold, the exact kind of tone that immediately shuts down a conversation. Aurora immediately picked up on it, having never seen me truly pissed off before. In her eyes, I was always the guy who had everything figured out, always wore a relaxed smile, and held complete control over every situation. So seeing my gaze turn completely dark was visibly unsettling for her. Unsettling enough that her grip tightened nervously around her light orb. "Who on earth is Ah Bing?" Vichy chimed in, looking genuinely clueless. "The Bone Warrior. The one your squad captured from that hooded necromancer." At that moment, Lysander slowly turned his head toward me, locking those lifeless eyes hidden beneath his hood right onto mine. "So that creature belonged to you? How fascinating. I just figured it was another wild monster. Tell you what, I'll offer you 100 gold coins for it." Honestly, that's pretty generous for a plain old bone warrior. This guy literally wanted to buy Ah Bing, my future undead emperor, for a measly 100 coins. Clearly, his necromancer intuition was telling him that Ah Bing was something extraordinary, yet his cheap wallet was throwing out total bargain bin prices. No, in an instant, Lysander's smirk completely faded, and his bony, skeletal fingers slowly wrapped around his magic staff. "You really shouldn't go around disrespecting a necromancer, especially in a region crawling with undead beasts." Before things could escalate, Vichy quickly reached out and grabbed Lysander's arm. "Let's not make this any more difficult than it needs to be." Lysander just scoffed and turned his head away, making it crystal clear he had no intention of returning Ah Bing. Vichy immediately slapped on his best fake polite face. "My apologies, Baron, but we've already taken care of that bone creature, mistaking it for a hostile monster. We'll pay you back for the loss." Hearing that, I let out a sharp whistle. Right on cue, a coarse sack strapped to one of their knight's horses began thrashing violently, and from deep inside, you could hear Ah Bing's unmistakable muffled bark, that exact same pathetic whimper he makes whenever someone knocks over his precious bone stash. The guy was totally fine and right in front of us. I strolled right over, whipped out my dagger, and sliced that bag wide open. Ah Bing's skull popped out instantly, his soul fire flickering wildly in total panic. "Looks like you won't need to reimburse me after all." I reached out to yank Ah Bing out of the sack, but suddenly, 2 skeletal minions erupted from the dirt and clamped straight onto my wrists and ankles. Lysander summoned them, which was a huge mistake. Aurora's hand was already glowing with holy light, and with one blinding burst of purification, both skeletons collapsed into absolute dust, faster than anyone could even process. A light which Vichy and Lysander completely froze in place, and every single radiant cross knight nearby turned into a literal statue, jaw completely dropped. This white-haired girl, this tiny teenager standing right beside a dirt-poor, sun-baked baron from a fallen family. She was actually a witch. A light witch, no less. The absolute rarest kind, capable of wiping out every single undead creature within a mile radius with a single spell. How in the world? How did an exiled, disgraced noble like him end up with a light witch? Suddenly, my order of knights, the ones labeled as sewer rats, the trash, the nobodies, who supposedly ruined the whole vibe, finally got their moment to shine. Every single adventurer stood up straight, puffed out their chests, and released weeks of bottled-up frustration in the absolute most satisfying way possible. Allow us to introduce Aurora, the guardian witch of the Red Moon territory. Now release our Baron's servant this instant. Vichy was definitely the quickest to adapt in that crowd. He scrambled off his horse so fast he nearly ate the dirt, dropped into the most ridiculously formal noble bow I'd ever witnessed, and his tone did a complete 180 from arrogant condescension to sweet, buttery charm in under a second. Please accept my humblest apologies, Baron. We'll return your servant immediately. I beg you, don't let this minor misunderstanding tarnish the great alliance between Red Moon Domain and Radiant Fire Domain. We're only here to assist and wipe out the wolf threat together. Long live our great partnership. Man, it's wild how fast get lost. You street trash turns into long live our eternal friendship. The moment an overpowered witch enters the scene. Honestly, you've got to hand it to Vichy, the guy could switch from. You're beneath my boots to please spare my life. Faster than Aurora could transform from a nobody to a goddess. A true master of spinning with the wind. Right on cue, every single Radiant Cross Knight dismounted and bowed deeply toward Aurora, like she was royalty leading a grand parade. Just 5 minutes ago, these guys were calling my crew sewer rats. And now, they were essentially bowing at her feet like she was royalty. Aurora squirmed in place. Having entire military forces bend the knee was totally new to her. Yet, somewhere deep down, I caught a tiny spark lighting up her eyes. The sudden realization that if she ever set foot in the northern continent again, back with the Lionheart clan, she would demand this exact same reverence. The unwanted bastard child had basically turned into a living, breathing nuke. They let the skeleton go right away, and he scrambled behind my back, shivering like crazy. The guy was utterly terrified of Lysander, and honestly, I don't blame him. Having a necromancer check you out, like a second-hand car he wants to buy, is seriously creepy when you're literally made of bones. I wasn't about to waste another second on polite small talk. Look, I don't care about your Lord James's wager, and I definitely don't need your help clearing out wolves. Every single thing in the Red Moon territory, every blade of grass, every beast, and every single wolf is my personal property. You are trespassing, so get out right now, or I will enforce imperial law. Article 14, Unlawful Territorial Invasion. I will lock up every last one of you, and force your lord to pay a hefty ransom. Every single Radiant Cross Knight looked like they'd just been slapped across the face. They had marched in here, expecting to easily steamroll a helpless wasteland, snatch the Wolf King, and head home like triumphant heroes. Nobody had prepared them to deal with a broke baron backed by a nuclear level, which who simply says no when I try to act as the mediator. Sir. Maybe we shouldn't, but then he caught my eye, and his whole body shrank into itself, just like a snail getting poked. He literally ducked behind his subordinate. Smart move. Baron, please reconsider. Miss Bet genuinely needs the Wolf King's heart. Vichy pleaded. Miss Bet's medical issues aren't my concern. I'm the lord of this land, which means everything here belongs to me. You have zero authority here, so leave. Zero mercy, zero room for negotiation. The knights mounted up, absolutely furious but totally powerless. Because nobody was crazy enough to test a witch. They started riding off. But then I called out one final thing. Vichy yanked his horse around, a glint of hope flashing in his eyes. Have you changed your mind, Baron? Nope. You completely wrecked my newly built village. Pay up. That tiny spark of hope died instantly. How much? 1,000 gold pieces. In reality, the actual repairs barely cost 100 gold. But hey, emotional damage, pain and suffering, my butler getting beaten up, it all adds up. Vichy's knights whipped out their pouches and pooled together 1,000 gold coins, looking like broke college kids trying to split an unexpected bar tab. They turned around to leave once again, and I stopped them right in their tracks again. Baron, what is it this time? Vichy's patience was hanging by a thread, so thin it was practically a cobweb. I pointed straight at the hooded necromancer, Lysander. He's been wanted by the Empire for 3 whole years. Bounty, 10,000 gold. He's trespassing in my domain, which means he's my problem now. He isn't going anywhere. The adventurers behind me stood there completely stunned. How on earth did I figure out it was Lysander? I mean, the guy was wrapped up tighter than an ancient mummy. There was literally no way anyone could see his face. Baron, you got all wrong. This isn't Lysander at all. He's actually our specialized consultant. If he isn't Lysander, then pull back that hood. My men are all seasoned former adventurers. They'll recognize him instantly. One Eye, who was shaking in his boots over the Radiant Cross, just 5 minutes ago, suddenly found his courage. Yeah, take off the hood. Show us your face. He literally just used dark magic to attack our lord. That's definitely Lysander. My nightly order went from zero confidence to peak hype in absolute record time. It's honestly wild what having a powerful witch backing you up does for your self-esteem. These same guys were cowering behind each other an hour ago, and now they're straight up trash-talking an entire army. Vichy quickly stopped Lysander from raising his staff any further. Baron, I assure you, he really isn't Lysander. Though I'll admit, he is indeed a necromancer. Maybe we can work something out? Red Moon territory has strict rules. Anyone carrying a bounty higher than 100 gold coins doesn't get to walk away. We enforce justice here. Plus, the guy tried to purchase my future undead emperor for absolute chump change. Now that's the real crime here. Lysander had officially heard enough. You think you can hold me? Let's see if you actually have what it takes. The crimson moon loomed directly overhead as eerie shadows began to dance. Lysander's skeletal fingers stroked the infant skull, embedded right into his staff. Suddenly, pitch black, tar-like fog erupted from its hollow eye sockets. 17 rotting corpses wrapped in decayed burial shrouds erupted right out of the dirt, their exposed rib cages, teeming with semi-transparent maggots that shrieked like wailing infants. Every single time, the eerie glow of the glowing fire flared inside their eyes. He slashed his staff through the air in an inverted cross motion, causing the skeletons to contort and fuse into a massive 10-foot wall of solid bone. Shin bones jammed violently into vertebrae, finger bones tightly interwoven like metallic chain links, with every single gap sealed up by dark bone marrow, leaking a foul plague mist. Total show-off. Aurora leaped right off a scorched tree branch and hovered gracefully into the night sky, the red moonlight, casting a blood-red glow along the edges of her silver hair. That glowing orb in her hand wasn't just raw magic. It was an ultra-dense holy balm, packed with ancient runes swirling around its surface. Like a mini galaxy trapped inside, she let fly. 12 bright, golden cracks fractured across the sphere. Right before it detonated completely, it was like the midday sun, bursting forth all at once. A blinding wave of pure, white, holy light swallowed the entire area. The massive bone wall shattered like fragile glass hitting solid concrete. The dark marrow instantly vaporized into a purple haze, and those screaming maggots burned away into ash-gray snowflakes, drifting softly through the night air. A sickly green fluid oozed from Lysander's split lips, as the tiny skull on his staff suddenly snapped its eyes open. He spat out 6 incantations of ancient forbidden magic, coughing up actual bloody chunks of his own flesh with the words. And suddenly, the ground began to move, heaving and churning like the inner stomach of a colossal beast. Hundreds of undead abominations burst straight out of the earth. This whole setup was originally his trap meant for the Wolf King, prepositioned ambush forces that had been buried across the entire zone. Now he was unleashing every single one of them directly at Aurora instead. Vichy completely panicked and instantly ordered a retreat. His knights raised their red shields, which erupted into protective walls of fire, as they sprinted their horses away from the epicenter. Meanwhile, my own adventurer knights unsheathed their weapons. One eye was visibly shaking, yet he held his ground. And right then, from the very back of our lineup, a voice echoed that sent chills straight down my spine. Sir Lucy. Our murderous nun stepped up to the front line. She slowly drew her long sword, her eyes deadlocked on a gigantic, skeletal spider crawling its way up from the dirt. It was a hideous monstrosity made of fused bones and throbbing, dark energy, with every single leg ending in a razor-sharp blade. She stared right at it, the exact same way a starving person looks at a 5-star feast. The absolute most stunning grin-eyed, ever laid eyes on spread wide across her face. Unfiltered, glowing bliss. It was the kind of genuine excitement normal people only feel at weddings, or when holding their newborn child for the first time. Sir, may I slaughter these?